Chapter 1491. Boom! The all-out war continued to reach its climax, and the entire war god palace had already fallen into chaos. The roars of demonic beasts, the earth-shaking battle cries, and a series of fierce battles between domains could be described as earth-shaking and earth-shattering. The martial sect leader Dongfang Hengji, the Han Yun sect leader Shu Yuan, the Spirit Phoenix Valley leader, and the second Elder Zhu Dai, these four great Saint King realm experts each had their own strengths. Facing the great Saint King realm elders of the War God Palace, they also displayed their powerful abilities. However, the most surprising one was the battle between Chu Hen and Duan Tsang. One was a disciple of the martial sect. The other was the ruler of the War God Palace. Not long ago, the former was still a nobody, but in just a few months, he had caused a commotion in the sacred war and flipped the entire Battle God Palace upside down. He broke the pattern that had been maintained in the Midland for thousands of years. He had shaken the War God Palace's position as the overlord of a region. Clang! A rain of light splashed, and the storm was like a tide. Along with a deafening thunderclap, a figure surrounded by red chi patterns and a figure surrounded by purple lightning arcs were both blown back by the fierce hurricane. The two landed on the east and west sides of the main palace respectively. The powerful true Yuan energy in their bodies stacked up like huge waves of fire, causing the surrounding space to become restless. You have to defeat me quickly. Otherwise, the people you brought here will all die here. Duan Tsang had a mocking sneer on his face, and he had a playful expression on his face. Umph. Chu Hen snorted. You think too much. Who knows which side will be destroyed first? I don't care which side will be destroyed first, but I can be sure that the one who will die first is you, Buzz. As soon as he finished speaking, Duan Tsang rose like a dragon, and a strong and terrifying murderous aura swept across the sky. He put his palms together, and a condensed crimson beam of light shot out from his arms and pierced through the heavenly river. The world instantly lost its color, and the sky above the huge inner city was immediately filled with a piercingly cold and strong murderous aura. What a strong murderous aura! The expressions of the people from the major forces outside the city changed. Palace Lord Duan Tsang is getting serious. An endless destructive aura pressed down on Chu Hen. Accompanied by the constantly strengthening, terrifying power, the red beam of light that pierced through the sky suddenly condensed into a giant blade that could split the sky. Tyrant, saber, heaven's rage. Duan Tsang shouted loudly. His arms seemed to be holding the might of lightning as he swung them down. In an instant, the peerlessly domineering scarlet blade light split the clouds in the sky and slashed towards Chu Hen with destructive power. The fierce hurricane crushed in all directions. In the face of Duan Tsang's powerful killing intent, Chu Hen's eyes already emitted a deep and dark light. Wah! With Chu Hen as the center, rays of dazzling light blossomed in the void. Woo! There seemed to be an ancient god chanting in a low voice between heaven and earth. In an instant, the phantoms of two huge stone statues flashing with tens of thousands of mysterious ancient runes suddenly appeared under the sky. What's that? Everyone who witnessed this scene was stunned. Palm of creation. Chu Hen coldly barked. Rumble. Thousands of thunderous roars resounded. Under many shocked gazes, the two gigantic godlike stone phantoms stretched out their huge hands from the left and right, slapping towards the frightening blade light that was slashing towards them in a combined attack. Hurricanes rapidly gathered on the arms of the stone statues, compressing into a vortex that rapidly rotated above the main hall. Bang! In the next second, the sky shook violently. The two huge palms that blotted out the sky, one on the left and the other on the right, pincered the blade light that was emitting endless destructive power. The moment the two huge palms caught the giant blade light, the surrounding space immediately collapsed. Boom! Rumble! A mighty shock wave immediately broke through the sky like the explosion of the heavens. The palm energy that could destroy mountains and rivers collided with the blade energy, that could split the heavens and split the earth. The two extremely destructive and terrifying forces directly set off aftershocks that filled the sky and earth. A ring of vigorous light rippled out in the air between the two of them. Together with the shattered sky severing blade light, the two phantoms also exploded inch by inch. Bang! As the space rapidly caved in, the main hall of the Palace of War in the center of the square below also collapsed with a loud bang. The imposing palace pillars fell to the ground one after another, and the magnificent brick and tile walls also collapsed. The aftershocks that swept out in all directions were like a hurricane that erupted from within. The luxurious and imposing palace disintegrated in an instant, turning into ruins in the blink of an eye. He actually caught it? How many martial arts of the fortune great emperor has he mastered? Looking at the destructive power produced by the collision of the two forces, countless people couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. It must be known that all the buildings in the Palace of War were reinforced with restrictions. It was to ensure that the buildings in the city would not be damaged in the event of some unexpected events. It was the same for the other sects and forces. However, the reinforced restrictions of the Palace of War were definitely not comparable to those of ordinary sects and could withstand a considerable impact. Just now, the thunder dragon that Chu Hen transformed from purple lightning had only smashed a hole in the side of the palace. But now, the entire palace had directly disintegrated. One could imagine how terrifying the power that erupted from the two just now was. Dust filled the sky, and gravel flew everywhere. The instant destruction of the most luxurious building in the Palace of War was enough to announce the complete collapse of Chu Hen and Duan Song. The central main hall had exploded, and the entire main city square had become especially flat and vast. Screech! At this moment, a low and deep bird cry came from the west of the ruins of the main hall. Everyone's heart jumped. Looking from afar, they saw that on the west side of the square, there were 4 ancient towers that were more than 100 feet tall. At the center of the 4 towers was a holy vermilion bird with a pair of dazzling and colorful wings. It lay there in a feeble manner, and 4 huge chains were embedded deep into its back, which were connected to the 4 towers. Wisps of light patterns swayed up and down the iron chains, and complicated runes exuded a strange aura. Seeing the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow's aura being completely suppressed, the expressions of Long Xuan, Yi Yao, Qiu Xingyi, and the others, who were fighting in the crowd, changed. Chu Hen's expression also darkened, and the formless emperor blade in his hand couldn't help but become colder. "Do you want to save this evil creature?" Duan Tsang laughed mockingly. Chu Hen shouted coldly, "Let go of her, ha! Naive." Duan Tsang suddenly clenched his hand, and his 5 fingers extended downwards. Along with a strong spatial rhythm, the 4 ancient towers below immediately emitted a strange rune fluctuation. Buzz, buzz, like a dry and cracked river overflowing with dark magma. Mysterious and dark ancient runes immediately spread all over the tower. Screech! The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow seemed abnormally restless. It struggled to get up and flapped its wings like an anxious beast. Along with the constantly trembling space, countless strange patterns swaying from the towers intertwined, connecting from head to tail. They quickly gathered on the platform beneath the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow to form a complicated rune formation. Whoosh! Then, endless colorful light beams shot into the sky, and the 4 towers erupted with dazzling light like gods. Under everyone's shocked gazes, the 4 towers simultaneously shot a stream of energy toward the center. Buzz, buzz! The intense energy turbulence caused everyone's heart to tremble. The 4 energy beams instantly converged above the square to form a large energy sphere with a diameter of more than 100 meters. Meanwhile, the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow kept flapping its wings, and colorful flames rose all over its body. It looked like it was being burned by hellfire, and it was extremely painful. This evil creature's demonic energy is very strong. Using her demonic soul as a sacrifice is simply perfect. Duan Song smiled playfully. Then, I'll let you experience the power of the 9 kills formation. Ha ha ha. Along with Duan Song's unbridled laughter, the rune formation that trapped the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow began to revolve rapidly. In an instant, the large energy body that had gathered in the sky trembled violently, and countless rays of light that resembled dragons and snakes blossomed and erupted from within. Following that, the rays of light that had shot out transformed into extremely sharp dragon snake blades that attacked the people from the martial sect. Hiss, 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 killing intent filled the sky, and blood danced in the air. Anyone who was hit by the dragon snake blades had their bones and blood separated, and they were instantly killed. Chapter 1492. 9 Killing Array Rumble. The storm gathered, and the sky lost its color. The large energy bodies that gathered above the 4 ancient towers were like the bloodthirsty monsters that occupied the sky above the god of War Palace. Countless dragon snake-like light rays swam between heaven and earth, like a huge net that enveloped the inner city of the god of War Palace. Along with a series of panic screams, the sharp dragon snake-like light rays pierced through the sky and pierced through the bodies of the martial ancestors sect people. Blood splattered and the endless murderous aura of destruction covered the sky. Roar! A huge tortoiseshell beast that was hundreds of feet tall roared angrily. It directly soared into the sky and exploded with a violent demonic aura in an attempt to tear the huge net of light apart. However, in the next moment, nearly 100 dragon snake-like light rays descended from all directions, sweeping up an irresistible super-penetrating force and hitting the body of the tortoiseshell beast. It only managed to resist the first dozen of light rays. Then, the dragon snake-like light rays pierced through the heavy armor of the other party and penetrated its huge body. Woo! It wailed and blood rained down. Bang! The tortoiseshell beast fell heavily on the ground. Its body was badly mutilated and covered with countless wounds. The extremely destructive light rays traced all the way down. It was like a divine punishment from the 9 heavens. Boom! With a loud explosion, the giant beast was directly smashed into pieces. Hiss! Shock! Fear! It filled the faces of countless people inside and outside the god of War Palace. Is this the rumored 9 killing array? 9 kills, 9 deaths. Martial zone, these people are finished. The god of War Palace is really ruthless. They don't intend to give them any chance to live. The 9 heavens transformation, the wind and clouds surged. The dragon snake-like light rays that connected heaven and earth were like a heavenly net that sealed the sky. The destructive force that came down was like a divine punishment of annihilation that gathered in the sky. The main city was instantly in chaos. Ha ha ha! The war god palace's master, Duan Song, roared with laughter. In his eyes, everyone was like lambs that were about to be slaughtered, and they were despairing and anxious. He looked at Chu Hen mockingly. It said that once you enter the 9 kills formation, you'll have a slim chance of survival. However, it's different today. With this beast's demon soul as the sacrificial formation, my 9 kills grand formation will continue to operate endlessly. I'll call all of you 9 deaths without survival. Ha! Duan Song smiled proudly. This was exactly what he had hoped to see. If he wanted to reclaim his position as the overlord of the god of War Palace, he would definitely soak the blood of these 100,000 people. Chu Hen's eyes flashed coldly as he looked at the dazzling dragon snake light and the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow, which was suffering unbearably. Without saying a word, he dragged a string of lightning in the void and rushed toward the 4 ancient towers at lightning speed. If he wanted to control the current situation, he had to break this formation as soon as possible. Otherwise, none of the people behind him and the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow would be able to survive. Duan Song immediately saw through Chu Hen's intention. You want to break the formation? I'll give you enough time. Duan Song had no intention of stopping Chu Hen at all. He allowed him to approach the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow. He had absolute confidence that no one in the Midland could break this 9 kills grand formation. Since it was already a dead end, what Duan Song wanted to do at this moment was not to kill, but to destroy. Hiss, swish. At the same time as he rapidly approached the 4 ancient towers, the powerful energy body floating in the sky that was as gorgeous as a star unceasingly erupted with fierce light pillars that shot towards Chu Hen. Chu Hen displayed an extremely fast reaction speed. He was like a dragonfly touching the water, flashing up and down, changing his position left and right. One after another, the dragon snake light beams brushed past Duan Song's cheeks and shoulders. It was a scene that made one's heart tighten. What a fast speed! I can't see his figure at all. The spectators outside the Palace of War Gods exclaimed in admiration. Chu Hen's reaction speed was so fast that everyone could only catch a wisp of afterimage in the air. No matter how dense the 9 kills grand formation's attacks were, Chu Hen was able to effectively avoid them. But no one can break the 9 kills grand formation. It's useless no matter how fast he is. Swish, swish, swish. In the blink of an eye, Chu Hen changed nearly 100 positions in a row. Like a carp that had crossed the dragon's gate, he directly arrived at the square where the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow was imprisoned. The two looked at each other through the formation that was surging with killing intent. Chu Hen said in a deep voice, "I'll save you now." With that, Chu Hen leaped up and charged toward the enormous and violent energy body that floated high in the sky like a stream of light. "As long as I shatter you, I can break the formation." Traces of determination surged in Chu Hen's eyes. "Ha ha ha!" Before he finished speaking, Duan Song's mocking laughter rang out. "I'm sorry, but you guessed wrong, whoosh." As he finished speaking, Duan Song's 5 fingers tightened in the air. In an instant, the dazzling and gorgeous energy body erupted with tens of thousands of dazzling rays of light. In the next instant, the innumerable dragon snake light pillars turned around and pointed towards Chu Hen. Rumble. The power of the countless light pillars was comparable to the divine punishment of the heavens. It illuminated the sky, stained the ground with frost, and swept up a berserk divine might that landed solidly on Chu Hen's body. Bang! The heavy sound was like a clap of thunder. No matter how fast Chu Hen was, it was impossible for him to dodge the attack that had no gaps at all. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, Chu Hen was ferociously smashed into the ground by the berserk impact. Boom! Rubble exploded and dust rose in all directions. Chu Hen was heavily sent flying, dragging traces on the ground for dozens of meters before he was able to stop. Chu Hen? Big brother Chu Hen? Everyone from the martial sect was shocked. They saw that Chu Hen's body was emitting white steam and his body was covered with wounds. Inside the 9 kills formation, the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow, who was trapped by 4 giant black chains, looked at the young figure on the ground uneasily. "Don't worry about me," the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow said. Chu Hen turned to look at it, but the corners of his mouth raised slightly. "Don't worry, I'm not dead yet." As soon as he finished speaking, thousands of terrifying, destructive heavenly punishments descended, and the dazzling light instantly engulfed Chu Hen. Boom! Clang! One after another, the dragon snake light pillars were like tens of thousands of thunderbolts that fell from the blue dome of heaven. Rocks collapsed, the earth collapsed, and the power that could destroy everything came one after another. Beam after beam of aurora pierced through the ground. In the blink of an eye, the area where Chu Hen was located had become the gathering point of a storm of death. And Chu Hen's figure was also engulfed. Everyone's expression changed drastically. Dongfang Heng Ji, Xu Yuan, Mei Zhang, and the rest were all shocked. This is the first time I've seen someone barge into the 9 kills formation alone. You're asking for it, Xian Luan, the elder of the god of war palace, who was opposite Dongfang Heng Ji, sneered. The martial sect, Hanyan sect, and Spirit Phoenix Valley, who were already panicking, were at a loss when they saw this scene. As for the Horse City, the Flying Rain sect, and the other forces, their faces were even paler. Duan Tsang, the palace master of the god of war palace, sneered proudly. I forgot to tell you, you'll die if you guess wrongly. Chapter 1493. Once inside, 9 kills, 9 lives. This was the definition of the 9 kills formation of the war god palace by the people from the major sects and forces of the Midland. The power that could destroy everything was like divine punishment, shrouding the sky above the inner city, completely blocking the retreat of the Marshal Zong's side. Meanwhile, near the core of the 9 kills formation on the west side of the central square, the continuous destructive power was like concentrated thunder, striking the ground and penetrating everything. The faces of countless people inside and outside the war god palace were filled with shock, especially the people from the major sects and forces who were watching the battle outside the battlefield. They were all shocked. It is indeed the 9 kills formation. Its power is so terrifying. This time, it will be hard for him to survive. The terrifying power that was gathered together was wildly and indiscriminately bombarded. Countless dazzling dragon and serpent lights had already engulfed Chu Hen within. Furthermore, the violent bombardment was still unceasingly erupting. The ground was unceasingly expanding and exploding. It was blasted all the way to the depths of the ground. Duan Song did not intend to give Chu Hen any chance to turn the situation around. It was obvious that he wanted to smash Chu Hen into the ground and firmly strangle him with the power of the 9 kills formation. Bastard. Mu Feng's eyes were bloodshot. Long Xuan, Yi Yao, Qiu Xingyi, Huang Fuqing, and the others were also shocked and angry. Everyone wanted to cross the overwhelming storm and lightning area, but they could not even cross the area released by Duan Song. Meanwhile, Dongfang Hengji, Xu Yuan, and the other great Saint King realm experts were also firmly entangled by their respective opponents, and could not spare any effort to rescue Chu Hen. Like a gathering storm, dragons and snakes swam, tearing the earth apart. At this moment, the Marshal's own side had a bad feeling. Ha 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 ha! Duan Tsang laughed wildly, like a monarch who controlled the life and death of everyone. Your expressions at this moment are exactly what I am looking forward to. A group of mobs. How can you enter my grand palace? Everyone's mind trembled. However, just as Duan Tsang finished speaking, an incomparably violent and heavy explosion suddenly stacked up in the sky above the war god palace. In an instant, everyone's hearts trembled, and Duan Tsang's laughter came to an abrupt halt. The large energy sphere that had gathered above the 4 ancient towers had actually exploded without any warning. What? Everyone was astonished. Like the exploding stars in the sky, the powerful aftermath swept in all directions like a tsunami. Countless rays of light interweaved in the sky, and countless dazzling rays of light shuttled between heaven and earth. What was going on? Everyone inside and outside the war god palace was confused. Shortly after, the dragon snake brilliant net that enveloped the sky above the war god palace completely collapsed. The formation has been broken. The Grand Emperor Palace's Wei Yan's eyes widened in disbelief. How is this possible? It's impossible to break the 9 killing formation, someone exclaimed. Furthermore, he didn't even touch any of the formation cores. Puzzled, as well as a strong sense of disbelief. Wind Frost City's Situ Hanya, 5 Elements Clan's Lin Inghe, the Great Emperor Palace's Tang Bufan, and the other people from the major forces all clenched their fists, their eyes filled with great seriousness. The rapidly disintegrating energy sphere immediately quieted down, and the complicated killing glyph formation under the sacred winged heavenly flame bird's body also retracted, and the formation patterns that were as hot as underground magma also rapidly withdrew. This situation, apart from the formation stopping, there was no other possibility at all. Suddenly, everyone's eyes trembled. Countless people's eyes fell on the side of one of the towers, only to see a strange monster lying on the top of the tower. What is that? Looking from afar, the monster was only a dozen meters tall. It had barb-like sharp claws, but its body was like a withered tree trunk, and its pair of eyes glowed with a golden light. It was very strange. Its whole body flickered with brilliant talismans. At this moment, it was opening its abyss-like black mouth, greedily devouring the power of the talismans on the tower. Talisman beast? Duan Song's eyes were cold as he spat out the word. Upon hearing these two words, everyone present was astonished. It's actually the legendary talisman beast that feeds on Reiki energy and the power of talismans. Tang Bufon muttered in shock. Windfrost City's Situ Hanya's eyes were also filled with seriousness. So the rumor about the Ice Emperor that has been passed down in the family is true. Looks like the so-called 9 killing formation is just SOSO. A mocking sneer entered everyone's ears. Under everyone's shocked gazes, a young figure slowly stood up from the ruins that had long been blasted through. Not dead yet. The people from the War God Palace were shocked. On the other hand, everyone from the martial sect could not help but be delighted. Among the rubble, Chu Hen's body was covered with dozens of wounds. His handsome face was also damaged in a few places, and there was a trickle of blood at the corner of his mouth. However, his aura was still strong and powerful. His pair of deep eyes that were flickering with a faint light were filled with disdain. "You did it on purpose," Duan Song shouted in a deep voice. Chu Hen wiped the blood at the corner of his mouth. "If I didn't do it on purpose, how would I have the chance to release the talisman beast to break the formation?" Whoosh! Everyone was stunned. From the beginning until the end, Chu Hen did not think the key to breaking the formation was the huge body of energy in the sky. The reason why he made such a big move was purely to attract Duan Song's attention, so that he could release the talisman beast into the 9 killing formation. Talisman beast. This ancient creature that had lived for tens of thousands of years was definitely a natural creator of the power of runes. Although it was not familiar with the structure of the 9 kills formation, it could rely on its strong perception of the power of runes to find the core of a 9 kills formation. As long as it cut in, it would be able to stop the 9 killing formation that had a slim chance of survival. Who would have thought that Chu Hen still had this trick up his sleeve? Chu Hen had never revealed the existence of the talisman beast even during the honor list competition. 9 killing formation? The corner of Chu Hen's mouth curled up into a disdainful smile. Then, he raised a palm and waved it in the direction of the sacred winged heavenly flame bird. "Screw your 9 killing formation." Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, a monstrous purple storm exploded around the sacred winged heavenly flame bird. The storm was as fast as lightning, and the airwaves were earth-shattering. Violent shock waves swept out in all directions. After a series of violent bangs, the 4 ancient towers collapsed and collapsed. The platform on the square where the 9 killing formation was set up was forcibly destroyed and disintegrated. 9 killing formation. Next time, set it up more firmly. Chu Hen looked provocatively at Duan Song, whose face was gradually turning gloomy. Bang, bang, bang. The huge square on the west side of the platform was completely overturned. Deep and dark cracks rapidly extended out. The moment the 4 towers collapsed, the 4 black chains embedded on the back of the sacred winged heavenly flame bird also broke. Screech! A loud bird cry soared into the sky. At this moment, the sacred winged heavenly flame bird's scarlet eyes burned with multicolored flames. It leaped into the sky, and a monstrous blazing flame actually burned the sky. The startling demonic energy that was suppressed was like a ferocious tsunami that rebounded. A pillar of fire soared into the sky, shattering the ground. The sky changed color rapidly. An incomparably powerful aura directly broke through its original critical point and reached a higher level. Buzz! As if being reborn from the fire, the sacred winged heavenly flame bird spread its 1,000-meter-long multicolored wings and soared into the sky. Then, a red light pattern spread out like a tidal wave. Great Saint King Realm? When did this beast break through? The expression of the War God Palace's Elder Shui, who had brought it back, darkened. Elder Shur, who had followed along, also clenched his fists. This beast actually broke through to the Great Saint King Realm under our eyes. This elder cannot let it go. Kill it. After saying that, The two of them rushed towards the sacred winged heavenly flame bird. However, before the two of them could make a move, another old man appeared in front of them in a flash. "Leave this beast to me. The two of you go and deal with them." The old man's face was ferocious, and his aura was especially cold. Them? Elder Shur and Elder Shui were stunned at first. The two of them looked at each other and immediately understood what the other meant. Very good. We know what to do." Then, the two of them directly looked at Dongfang Heng Ji, Shu Yuan, Mei Zhang, and the others. Once the 9-killing array was broken, the situation that was originally leaning towards one side changed greatly. Kill! The deafening battle cries shook the sky. The Beast Army, the Ancestral Butterfly Clan, the Martial Sect, the Spirit Phoenix Valley, and the Han Yun Sect all launched a fierce counterattack. Shu Hen's domineering and piercingly cold words ignited everyone's blood in response to Duan Song's provocative words. When he raised his hand to overturn the 9-killing array, it ignited the high fighting spirit of everyone behind him. It was like a pillar of the soul. As long as Chu Hen did not fall, no one would be afraid. In the sky, on the ground, Duan Song and Chu Hen faced each other in the sky. Both of them felt as if there was a terrifying, ferocious beast occupying their hearts. War God Palace, Martial Sect. This scene was like a battle between a dragon and a python. Chapter 1494. Roar. The beasts roared as their battle cries shook the heavens. The intense battle that broke out caused the entire War God Palace to be reduced to ruins. The smoke of beacons extended, and the trenches extended. Fresh blood stained the ground, and horrifying corpses were strewn everywhere. No one had expected the martial sect to fight against the War God Palace to such an extent. Even more so, they did not think that the 9-killing formation, which was regarded as a 9 deaths 1 life, would be broken by Chu Hen. The situation on both sides was constantly changing. Chu Hen's forceful breaking of the formation and the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow's breakthrough immediately boosted the morale of the martial sect side and set off a strong counterattack. "You evil creature, you've been hiding so well these few days." An elder of the Battle God Palace raised a majestic black domain and charged towards the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow that was bathed in flames and dancing in the sky. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow's aura had been weak for the past few days after being sealed in the 9-killing formation. Seeing this, the War God Palace naturally let down their guard. No one had expected the other party to step into the Great Saint King stage under everyone's eyes. It was truly unexpected. Screech, the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow's eyes shone with a domineering aura. Facing the powerful domain power that swept over, it moved in the air and flapped its wings. Who? Scorching air waves spread across the sky as a huge pillar of fire shot down towards the other party. Bang! The terrifying pillar of fire directly invaded the other party's domain. Like a huge dragon swooping down, it pierced through the domain and blasted toward the other party. Humph! The elder from the War God Palace's eyes revealed a cold glint as he dodged to the side and continuously dodged the raging flames. At the same time, his speed increased drastically as he set off a majestic aura that pressed towards the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow. The two domains immediately collided with each other, and the violent collision was like a collision between two mountains. The resulting shock waves caused the sky to tremble and sway. Thousands of soldiers fought, and the sky darkened. The battle of domains caused the weather to change. They had thought that the War God Palace had the absolute power to suppress the other party, but the martial sect's stubborn resistance caused the chaotic battle line to continuously lengthen. Boom! Bang! The luxurious and imposing skyscrapers quietly disintegrated, and the resplendent palaces collapsed one after another. The inside and outside of the War God Palace were in ruins. This was not what Duan Song wanted to see. "You really deserve to die." Duan Song's eyes were filled with cold killing intent as he stared condescendingly at the young figure in the pile of rubble below. "It's been a long time since I've had the intention to kill someone like this." Chu Hen smirked. Same to you. Buzz. The void between the two began to vibrate rhythmically. The two of them, one above and one below, stared at each other from a distance like two fierce tigers facing off. Huff! In the next moment, a circle of gorgeous lightning arcs appeared in the air, and Chu Hen's shocking aura burst forth. At the same time, Duan Sang's aura also rose like a storm. Little bastard, see if I don't make you die without a burial place. As soon as he finished speaking, Duan Sang's tremendous aura soared into the sky. At the same time that he charged towards Chu Hen, waves of destructive and violent energy enveloped Chu Hen from all directions. Duan Sang's eyes were as sharp as a blade. As he stretched out his palm, the red energy waves that were surging around him gathered around him. Like a torrential storm, endless killing intent filled the sky and earth, and thousands of scarlet spear shadows burst out in the void. Limitless spear break. Rumble. The killing intent was like numbness. Thousands of terrifying, interweaving sword shadows tore through the sky and enveloped Chu Hen's head. The dense spear shadows were like an earth-shattering rain of light. Each spear shadow was as solid as if it had been tempered in magma, and it was surrounded by strands of rapidly flowing light patterns. Feeling the powerful aura from Duan Sang's killer move, the expressions of everyone inside and outside the War God Palace changed. No one doubted it. Duan Sang's move was enough to instantly kill any mortal rank, or even Earth rank Great Sand King powerhouse. Disappear, Duan Sang shouted coldly. The wind and rain were strong, and the stars were gathered above. Looking at the countless destructive spear shadows that pierced through the sky, Chu Hen's pupils faintly shrank to the size of a needle. Rumble. Accompanied by thousands of thunderous roars, Chu Hen's seemingly tiny figure was directly swallowed by the storm of spear shadows. However, in the next moment, a violent and destructive aura immediately spread out, and the space that was sealed by the endless spear shadows suddenly caved in. Then, a loud and heavy bang shook the sky, and a powerful blue circle of light suddenly surged and exploded from within. Immeasurable creation, the already dark world once again fell into an unprecedented shock. At this moment, the dazzling light stunned everyone's visual nerves. Like an exploding star, the space in all directions was quickly torn apart. Wherever the blue circle of light went, the thousands of spear shadows that were like a torrential storm were completely crushed. Oh my God! Seeing the immeasurable creation again, the geniuses on the list of excellence that were hiding in the dark outside the War God Palace felt their hearts stop beating. Although Chu Hen had already performed it once in the Chaos Devil domain, seeing it again still made a huge impact on his mind. The terrifying shock wave that could destroy everything swept over the central square of the inner city with the momentum that could flatten the 9 regions. Countless spear shadows mixed with the aftermath of the fierce air waves overturned the heavenly river. The ground of the square below burst open rapidly. Cracks that quickly extended out formed an abyss-like fault. Dust filled the sky, and the remaining power raged. After that, under numerous shocked gazes, the two figures retreated from the center of the chaotic energy storm. One to the east and the other to the west, both of them steadily landed back on the ground. The cold wind was biting cold, and the frost and dust filled the sky. The battle between the various domains shook the 9 heavens. At the same time, the Valley Master of Spirit Phoenix Valley, Mei Zhang, and the War God Palace's elder, Inferior Tooth, also broke out a particularly fierce confrontation. Boom! The turbulent cyclone crushed the surrounding buildings, and Inferior Tooth, who was as strong as an orc, was actually shaken back 100 meters. After all, compared to Dongfang Hengji, Shu Yuan was more experienced. Mei Zhang was the first to gain the upper hand. However, without waiting for Mei Zhang to take advantage of the situation to launch another attack, suddenly, a water-blue light curtain attacked. Water domain. Mei Zhang was shocked and immediately threw out a palm to the side. Bang! For palms collided, and a strong air wave suddenly set off behind the two. The true inner force outside Mei Zhang's body was like a flame swaying in the wind, especially uneasy. You? Looking at the attacker in front of him, Mei Zhang's face darkened. But before Mei Zhang could finish speaking, a piercingly cold gust of wind came from behind him. At the same time, a layer of brown light curtain formed a second domain that pressed on Mei Zhang's body. Oof, go to hell. Not good. Mei Zhang turned pale with fright. Bang! A dull explosion reverberated in the air, and a pair of thin and fierce palms hit Mei Zhang's back. Mei Zhang's body shook violently, and a mouthful of blood suddenly spurted out. Then, Elder Shui sneered and hit Mei Zhang's chest several times. The vigorous true inner force lingering on Mei Zhang's body was completely shattered. Bang! The domain that Mei Zhang released immediately collapsed, and at the same time his whole body was smashed like a sandbag. Falling heavily on the ground, Mei Zhang's body was dyed red with the blood that constantly flowed out. Valley Master. All the disciples of Spirit Phoenix Valley were shocked, and all of them were shocked and angry. Mei Zhang climbed up with difficulty and stared at Inferior Tooth, Elder Shui, and Elder Shur in front of him with a face full of anger. You guys are so shameless. 3 Saint King realms against one person at the same time. No one had expected this at all. Oomph. Elder Shui sneered disdainfully. Do you really think that we are willing to wait for you to waste time here? Naive. The ending has long been decided. You guys are just struggling on your deathbed. Outside the God of War Palace, the people from the major forces secretly shook their heads. The thing that martial sect was most worried about had happened. The 3 Great Saint King realms that no one could control had become the key to deciding the situation. Previously, they did not make a move, which gave martial sect a little suspense. However, as the 9 killing array was broken and the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow joined the battlefield, it was obvious that the God of War Palace did not intend to delay any longer, because there was no need to. Don't you dare harm our Valley Master. Kill. The group of people who were close to them did not say a word, and quickly rushed over there. Humph. Elder Shui smiled contemptuously, raised his hand, and raised a layer of blue light curtain towards the crowd. Meddlesome! Bang, bang, bang. Everyone was sent flying, and one by one, they fell to the ground, as if they were being oppressed by a heavy weight and vomited blood. Stop! Mei Zhang roared angrily. Death is at hand. Don't care about others. Inferior Tooth's mouth curled into a cruel smile, and then he leaped up, setting off a murderous aura, and rushed in front of Mei Zhang. Damn it! Dongfang Hengji, Shu Yuan, and the others were all anxious. However, when they wanted to go forward to rescue him, they were held back by their opponents. Don't worry, it will be your turn soon. The elder of the God of War Palace, Xian Luan, sneered. Dongfang Hengji's eyes were almost spitting fire, and he threw a few palms at his opponent. The power of the domain that shrouded down blocked all of Mei Zhang's escape routes, and the latter had already felt the arrival of the God of Death. Am I going to lose? Mei Zhang could not help but feel a little desperate. Inferior Tooth's smile became colder. I will send you to the next world. Woo! Suddenly, a loud and clear fox howl tore through the sky. The sky was filled with flower rain, like snow falling on the world. Under the white feather, a terrifying sword power suddenly swept through the inner city of the God of War Palace. Zong! The impassioned sound of the sword was deafening. 5 green fox shadows suddenly appeared around Luoya. This is... Everyone's heart skipped a beat. In the next moment, the 5 fox shadows dragged a bunch of white sword light and quickly swept towards Inferior Tooth in the middle. Flowers fill the sky and intoxicate 3,000 guests, 1 sword frost, and 19 provinces. The sound of the air being cut was particularly clear. The 5 fox shadows intertwined and shuttled around Inferior Tooth's body, stunning and gorgeous like the bright stars in the dark night. Hiss! A series of bright blood splattered in the sky, and together with the power of Inferior Tooth's domain that was cut apart, the opponent's powerful beast-like body was instantly torn apart in the sky, and his whole body was directly disintegrated from middle. Chapter 1495. Hiss! Gorgeous blood flowers danced in the wind, splattering in the air due to the intertwining airflow. The loud and clear sword cry emitted a magical power that shook everyone's soul. The sword ray dragged by the 5 green fox silhouettes stunned the world. Under countless shocked gazes, Luo Ya's beast-like sturdy body was directly split into pieces along with the domain power that had been split apart. Blood splattered in the sky as frost dyed the world. A great Saint King powerhouse was killed with a single sword strike. The hearts of everyone present were filled with shock. Everyone inside and outside the God of War Palace was shocked. Who was it this time? Woo! The fox cried, and the wind howled as frost filled the sky. In an instant, a huge green fox silhouette suddenly appeared in the sky above the inner city. Under the snowflakes that floated in the sky, Luo Ya's body was lying in the air. A demonic figure holding a long sword stood in the air. Whoosh! An invisible airwave swept in all directions, causing everyone's eyes to tremble. The person's hair was dyed snow, and the corners of his eyes were long and narrow. He exuded an innate, noble aura. Nine-tailed fox. Whether it was the people from the God of War Palace or the martial sect, everyone was shocked. Wow, it's that handsome fox. Six-winged ancestral butterfly, Xiaowan called out in surprise. Not far away, Mu Feng heaved a sigh of relief. We finally made it in time. It's one of the strongest demon clans, the Nine-tailed fox. Outside the city, the people from the Great Emperor Palace, the Five Elements clan, the New Moon Saint clan, Wind Frost City, and many other forces were also surprised. As everyone knew, ever since the Nine-tailed clan suffered a great calamity, they rarely went out. They even rarely cared about the matters of the demon territories. It was unbelievable that they would interfere in the battle between humans. Chuhen actually had so many helpers. Somewhere in the chaotic battlefield, the martial sect disciple Qining looked at the particularly dazzling figure in surprise. Her eyes were filled with light. Valley Master? How are you? A few Spirit Phoenix Valley disciples hurriedly surrounded Mei Zhang and helped him up. Mei Zhang lifted him up, but his face was still solemn as he looked at the scene in front of him. I've been blaming myself for letting you escape last time. Jun Jianga raised his hand and pointed his sword at Elder Shui and Elder Shi. Both of their faces were extremely gloomy. Damn fox, how dare you meddle in the affairs of the God of War Palace? Elder Shi said fiercely. Jun Jianga smiled coldly. How can you stop me from meddling in something that I want to meddle in? Die. Both of you. Come at me together. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be qualified to draw my sword. Bastard, don't be too complacent. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. Elder Shi said sternly. Don't talk nonsense with him. Let's kill him together. Elder Shui was also furious. After saying that, the two of them released their domain power without reservation. Light curtains of different colors converged and turned into a double domain that shrouded Jun Jianga. However, Jun Jianga didn't care about it all. His body was also emitting an extraordinary and powerful energy rhythm. Domain of Swords. Boom. Bang. The 3 domain forces collided violently in the air. Jun Jianga was fighting against 2, but his domain was still stable without any distortion. Then, the 2 from the God of War Palace fought with all their strength. No one expected this. At the critical moment, the Fox of Green Hill, Jun Jianga, had appeared halfway and not only saved the Spirit Phoenix Valley's Valley Master Mei Zhang, he had also beheaded Elder Arya in a thunderous manner. As he fought against 2 people alone, the outcome of this fierce battle that changed the entire Midland finally began to be in suspense. The main deciding factor of both sides was the great Saint King realm powerhouses. They were almost equal. The destruction of the 9 killing formation. The breakthrough of the Sacred Wing Heavenly Flame Bird. Jun Jianga's appearance. All the advantages the War God Palace had at the right time and in the right place vanished into thin air. This time, the God of War Palace had no advantage at all. Even in terms of morale, the martial sect side was steadily ahead of the other side. You seem to be a little complacent. The vicious woman holding the 5-poison cauldron coldly stared at Shu Yuan, the leader of the Han Yun sect. The latter raised the corner of his mouth and smiled frivolously. I'm not complacent. I just feel that the god of War Palace is not as powerful as I thought. I'm sorry to tell you, but it's too early for you to be happy. The woman's eyes emitted a poisonous, cold light. As soon as she finished speaking, the giant snake covered in green scales directly circled behind Shu Yuan from the thick blood mist. A cold, fishy smell filled the air as the giant snake opened its mouth and closed towards Shu Yuan. Humph! Shu Yuan snorted softly. He glanced out of the corner of his eye, then suddenly turned around and sent out a dazzling ray of light. Cloud halberd, zung. The sound of a heavy weapon reverberated in the sky. Shu Yuan shouted loudly, and a sharp halberd surrounded by swaying golden light swept out from the dazzling light. With a peerless divine might, the cloud halberd exploded with a dazzling divine radiance and directly hit the giant snake's mouth. Bang! With a loud sound, a piercing light pierced through the sky. The halberd forcibly penetrated the head of the giant snake. Blood rained down, and the ferocious giant snake quickly collapsed. Then, it exploded into a cloud of blue smoke. I'm going to kill you. The cold woman shook the 5-poison cauldron in her hand once again. Then, 4 rays of blue light emitted from the cauldron. The 4 clouds of blue smoke quickly wrapped around Shu Yuan. As they moved, a series of strange and sharp whistling sounds came from within the blue smoke. The scorpion, spider, toad, and centipede, the 4 ferocious and malevolent large poisonous creatures, were like hungry ghosts that crawled out of hell. Shu Yuan did not dare to be careless. He grabbed the air with his 5 fingers. Swoosh! The cloud halberd immediately returned to his hand. He waved the halberd like a god of war, facing the attacks of the 4 poisonous creatures. Bang! Rumble! The violent power overturned the ground of the palace of War God, destroying the luxurious and imposing palace buildings. The central square of the inner city was covered with countless huge cracks that seemed to extend into the abyss. East and west. The 2 people who decided the final direction of this earth-shattering battle were like 2 fierce tigers facing each other. It seems that you have used up all your trump cards. Strands of cyclones flowed around Duan Song's body, and the surrounding space began to vibrate rhythmically. A smile that was close to madness appeared on his face. However, I have not even begun to use my strength. What? The domineering figure caused the hearts of everyone present to tremble. As soon as he finished speaking, Duan Song's eyes erupted with a blazing brilliance. Rumble! In the next moment, the rocks on the ground beneath him cracked inch by inch. Like a volcano erupting in an instant, a spiral of blazing red light pillars surrounded Duan Song's body and shot into the sky. That is, the people outside the Palace of War God were shocked. This blood-red, explosive energy is... Bang! The terrifying aura crushed the rocks in all directions, and a monstrous blood-red steam almost pierced the sky above the Palace of War God. In an instant, the sky above the vault of heaven seemed to collapse, and a storm gathered. Duan Song's body seemed to be soaked in a layer of high-temperature magma, and a steady stream of blood-red explosive energy split in all directions. Sacred body of primitive wilderness. Duan Song's voice exploded in the ears of everyone present like a thunderclap. Clang! It was like a thunderbolt from the clear sky. The moment they heard these words, Dongfeng Hengji, Shu Yuan, Mei Zhang, and the others were all shocked. Outside the Palace of War God, the people from the Great Emperor Palace, the 5 Elements clan, Wind Frost City, and other major forces also widened their eyes in shock. Hong, sacred body of primitive wilderness. It turned out to be one of the 10 strongest sacred bodies, the sacred body of primitive wilderness bloodline limit. The Palace of War is a force of the sacred clan of primitive wilderness? Oh my god, what are they doing? Duan Song is actually, at this moment, the entire Palace of War God was turned upside down. Sacred body of primitive wilderness. One of the 10 strongest sacred bodies. It was also the sacred body with the most destructive power among the 10 strongest sacred bodies. In anger, wind and thunder shook. In one move, mountains and rivers split. In the whole world, those who possessed the sacred body of primitive wilderness could overturn rivers and seas with a raise of their hands. Shock. Absolute shock. Next, the entire Midland would be turned upside down. Duan Song turned out to be from the sacred clan of primitive wilderness. It was hidden too deeply. It was really hidden too deeply. For thousands of years, no one had seen through the background of the palace of War God. Tremble. Duan Song, whose momentum was monstrous, burst out with a great divine and demon power that could destroy heaven and earth. He lifted his leg, and with a loud bang, an incomparably fierce shock wave directly split the heavy earth in front of him, setting off a strong explosive force and blasting towards Chu Hen in front of him. Chu Hen's pupils shrank, and a black light immediately ignited around his body. He punched out, and a vigorous fist pillar met the red shock wave. Bang! Rocks cracked, and waves of air rose to the sky. Messy rubble flew down wantonly, and Chu Hen was forced to retreat. His feet were dragged on the ground for 100 meters before he was able to stop. How is this power? Duan Song's entire body was surrounded by rapid, blood-colored steam. Chu Hen's eyes narrowed, and he said coldly, "It's only SOSO. Only SOSO." If it was a moment ago, everyone would have thought that Chu Hen was domineering. Now, in their opinion, Chu Hen was pretending to be calm. The moment Duan Song displayed the sacred body of primitive wilderness, the outcome of this battle was already decided. Ha ha ha. I hope you can still stand and talk to me later. Primordial giant. Rumble. Along with Duan Song's ear-piercing and earth-shattering momentum, the even more violent blood-colored steam directly crushed the entire platform of the plaza. Numerous red pillars of light intertwined in the sky, like wind pillars entangling the clouds, stirring up the heavens and the earth. Under countless gazes filled with dense shock, Duan Song's body rapidly grew larger. Hua! Surging waves spread out, and Duan Song suddenly turned into a giant that was 100 meters tall. A dark red berserk power covered his body, like a divine armor formed from magma. He stared at the tiny figure below with an indifferent attitude, and boundless killing intent rose and surged. "You can completely disappear now. Buzz." The moment his words fell, Duan Song, who had transformed into a primordial giant, punched towards Chu Hen below. The ferocious and violent fist force pierced through the sky and descended. Boom! In an instant, the ground beneath Chu Hen rapidly caved in, and countless cracks exploded. The black shadow quickly enveloped the sky above his head, and the giant fist that was like an apocalyptic fiend god descended like a meteor. Heaven and earth shook. The world trembled. In everyone's eyes, Chu Hen was like a small boat in the middle of a storm, facing the falling meteor that could destroy the world. Everything around him was crushed into powder. Everyone's impact was concentrated on one person. "He's dead," Wei Yin of the great emperor palace said determinedly. Tang Bufan, Hu Bingyu, Lin Inghe, Sito Hanye, and the other geniuses on the list all showed a deep fear. Izhou, Wang Li, Qiu Xingyi, Wu Yin, and the others were all filled with fear. Long Xuan, Yao, Huang Fuqing, Mu Feng, and Xiao Xiaowan all showed a trace of sadness and panic. The martial sect, the Han Yun School, the Spirit Phoenix Valley, the Horse City, the Flying Rain School, and many other forces had all fallen into a deep despair. They had risked their lives already. But who would have thought that the War God Palace was backed by the Chaos Clan, one of the 10 most powerful holy clans in Midland? Man proposes, but God disposes. In the end, human lives could not be disobeyed. Raging wind and rain gathered as the tremendous chaos fist shattered the space. Looking at the terrifying power that could destroy everything, Chu Hen's dark and deep pupils quietly released a strange wave of power. Boom! The ground cracked, and the surface of the inner city caved in. The remaining buildings in the surroundings were directly swept to the ground. Under countless pairs of eyes that were on the verge of popping out, a chaotic shockwave overturned the entire sky above the war god palace. However, at this moment, everyone's pupils shrank to the extreme. The scene in the space seemed to have been frozen. The scene that everyone had predicted did not appear. The wind and clouds rose, and the sky changed. The destructive fist of the chaos giant, transformed from Duan Song, was firmly stopped in the air. Above Chu Hen's head, a giant purple hand directly caught Duan Song's terrifying fist power. He blocked it. What? How is that possible? My God, that's the chaos sacred body. Between the sky and the earth, there seemed to be a melodious battle song. Everyone's heart seemed to have stopped beating. At the same time, in the sky behind Chu Hen, a pair of incomparably evil purple eyes quietly emerged. Like the eyes of an ancient demon god, they shocked everyone, looking down at the war god palace. This is demon eye. Clang. Another bolt from the blue exploded in the depths of everyone's soul. There's more. Chapter 1496. 1 second to remember. Wonderful pop-up window, free reading. Buzz. At this moment, the wind and clouds rose and the sky changed. Inside and outside the war god palace, it was as if a world-shaking storm had gathered. Countless people's hearts seemed to have stopped beating. The scene in the sky above the palace of war god seemed to have stopped. A giant purple hand reached out from the ground and caught the prehistoric giant's terrifying fist. And the pair of purple eyes that floated behind Chu Hen had astonishingly shocked everyone's mind and soul. It was a pair of purple eyes that looked like those of an ancient demon god. The invisible power made the surrounding space twist. In the depths of those purple pupils, there were 7 black dots that were slowly chasing each other. Demon Eye, one of the 10 most powerful sacred bodies, the sacred body of Demon Eye. His trembling voice was like a sudden clap of thunder in everyone's mind. Instantly, everyone's eyes were trembling uneasily, including Long Xuan, Mu Feng, Yi Yao, Xiao Xiaowan, and the other people who were most familiar with Chu Hen. They were all shocked. Chu Hen, Brother Chu Hen has the 10 most powerful sacred bodies. Shock. Unbelievable. They didn't even dare to think about it. This guy never let us down. Mu Feng murmured. They were very surprised. They couldn't believe it. But in their eyes, it was reasonable. There was no other reason, except that it was Chu Hen. Finally, the pair of eyes. Outside the palace of War God, Lin Inghe, a genius of the 5 Elements clan, sighed. The question that had been hidden in his heart was finally confirmed. Back in the Chaos Devil world, when he fought against the invasion of the Devil Army, it was indeed the sacred flame of Demon Eye that could be controlled by the sacred body of Demon Eye. Compared to Lin Inghe, Tang Bufan, Wei Yin, Lai Xing Yuan, Sida Hanye, and the other geniuses on the list were all shocked. Duan Song from the War God Palace possessed the bloodline of the immemorial holy body, which was more than enough to turn the entire Midland upside down. Who would have thought that at this moment, a pair of chaotic purple demon eyes would once again appear here? Boom! The great earth collapsed, rapidly exploding. Everyone's expression changed. In an instant, everyone looked at the young figure with unconcealable reverence in their eyes. The ground beneath Chu Hen continued to crack and explode. Following that, a pillar of purple light shot up into the sky like a tsunami. Your strength is indeed only so. Strange waves of air trembled, and together with a frivolous and playful voice, Chu Hen raised his eyes, and in the depths of his pupils, which had already turned purple, 7 black spots appeared to be chasing each other in a clockwise direction. Whoosh, a sharp whistling sound of power spread out. In the next instant, with the purple eyes of the demon god behind Chu Hen as the center, countless vigorous and beautiful purple beams of light interweaved and intertwined with each other, quickly transforming into the upper body of an enormous giant. 7-star demon eyes, cracks spread all over the inner city of the Palace of War God, along with rocks of different sizes. The purple arm that caught the prehistoric giant's fists suddenly tightened. Under everyone's shocked gazes, the purple arm pushed the prehistoric giant's arm out of the ground. What? It was like a gigantic beast from another world, crawling out an abyss. Everyone's expressions changed dramatically. They all popped out their eyes and clenched their fists. Could it be? Boom! A heavy and vast power swept across the entire area. Countless purple lights swirled and intertwined, and a 300-meter-tall giant warrior wearing an armor showed up in everyone's sight. His entire body was covered in heavy armor, and his transparent head revealed a pair of evil purple eyes. The terrifying power of a demon god could be felt across the entire sky. Endless purple light covered his entire body. The world, which had already lost its color, was stirred up once again, and thunders were roaring. A vast and mighty wave of chi revolved around Chu Hen. Standing in front of this giant warrior, he looked like a king who controlled this world. Nirvana, demon spirit. Chu Hen shouted coldly. Wah! 7-star demon eyes. Nirvana, demon spirit. Chu Hen's demonic pupil divine might erupted from his demonic eyes, setting off a raging wave thousands of meters high. Under countless gazes filled with astonishment, the purple demonic spirit behind him erupted with a tremendous amount of divine power, forcibly lifting the arm of the desolate giant that Duan Tsang had transformed into. In the blink of an eye, the two giants faced each other. Duan Tsang was both shocked and furious. His face, which was covered in a scarlet primordial aura, was filled with rage. We're both of the 10 strongest sacred physiques. How can I lose to you? Disappear. After saying that, Duan Tsang's other giant palm raised a sky-splitting primordial force. Rumbling sounds of wind and thunder overlapped as his palm struck towards the head of the Nirvana demon spirit. However, at this moment, the Nirvana demon spirit's eyes suddenly burst out with 2 purple beams of light. The beams of light instantly turned into 2 huge arrows. Boom! One on the left and one on the right. The 2 light arrows directly hit Duan Tsang's palm. For example, the Aurora shuttle pierced through the clouds. The sharp purple beam of light penetrated Duan Tsang's palm. Everyone was shocked. Duan Tsang can't block Chu Hen's power. How could this be? Without waiting for Duan Tsang to raise an even more powerful primordial force, the Nirvana demon spirit's right arm suddenly burst out with a dazzling pillar of lightning. Chi-chi, the violent lightning power was like a python covering the right arm. Everyone was even more shocked. The summoned demon spirit can also use the power of the original body? I've never heard of the Demon Eyes clan's Nirvana demon spirit being able to do this. He actually perfectly fused the power of the bloodline boundary with other attributes. Unbelievable! At this moment, the martial sect master Dongfang Hengji's eyes were also faintly filled with shock. Is it because of the primordial chaos technique? Dongfang Hengji didn't dare to believe it. Without giving the crowd too much time to think, the Nirvana demon spirit wielded the power of tens of thousands of lightning bolts and faced the primordial giant that Duan Tsang had transformed into. Chi-chi. In an instant, the purple and green lightning gathered in the palm of the Nirvana demon spirit instantly interweaved and condensed into a peerlessly sharp lightning spike. Holding the peerlessly sharp lightning spike, the Nirvana demon spirit directly pierced it into the center of the primordial giant's chest. Clang! The heavenly thunder crisscrossed, and the hurricane tore the sky. Countless bolts of lightning immediately exploded from the void of the ninth heaven. Rays of light blossomed in front of the primordial giant, like dragons and snakes wandering in all directions, shattering the sky and enveloping the top of the war god palace, causing the souls of everyone present to tremble. So what if you're also one of the 10 strongest sacred bodies? How can you stop me? Chu Hen's ice-cold voice was like a sharp blade that invaded everyone's heart. You, Duan Tsang, who had transformed into a primordial giant, opened his eyes in anger. The blood-colored violent aura around his body surged like a churning wave. Bang! A heavy, muffled boom shook the sky. The The pupils of everyone on the scene nearly popped out of their sockets. They saw the lightning spike in a Nirvana demon spirit's palm forcibly penetrate the primordial giant's chest from the front to the back. Crack! The peerlessly sharp lightning spike directly penetrated the giant's back. It looked like a giant snake that was spitting out its long tongue, releasing a sky-tearing power, which was extremely terrifying. Waves of chaotic, blood-colored steam spread out in a disorderly manner. A purple light spread out from Duan Song's entire body like a divine vine. The latter's eyes were wide open, filled with shock and fear that he had never seen before. Boom! At this moment, the war god palace was shrouded in an unprecedented dark cloud. The 10 strongest sacred bodies. The sacred body of the prehistorical sacred body shocked everyone on the scene. The sacred body of the spirit demon eyes was earth-shattering. When they witnessed the scene in front of them, everyone's hearts turned upside down. Defeated, Duan Song lost. As a dominator of the Midland, an emperor-like being, his position was directly overturned. At this moment, his pair of eyes, which could destroy the world, stood on top of the crowd with the majesty of killing a king. Good night, everyone. Chapter 1497. Rumble. The sky trembled as the lightning spike pierced through the chest of the giant under countless shocked gazes. It was like a divine radiance that pierced through the chaotic world. Destruction, demon spirit. The power of the 7-star demon eyes. Like a fiend god descending to the world, it shocked everyone present. Everyone present turned pale with fright. Everyone inside and outside the god of war palace was terrified, and their eyes were wide open. Waves of shock rose in the hearts of the people from the major forces outside the city. Tang Bufan, Wei Yin, Situ Hanya, Lai Shunyuan, and many other geniuses on the list trembled in shock. Duan Song actually lost. It was unbelievable. In the battle between the sacred body of desolation and the sacred body of demon eyes, the latter directly broke the sky with a destruction demon spirit. Clang. Under countless trembling gazes inside and outside the god of war palace, the heavenly stars exploded, and a thunderbolt across the sky tore through the void like a sharp giant claw. The terrifying sacred radiance exploded in front of the giant that Duan Song had transformed into. The space distorted and collapsed. The powerful blood-colored steam surrounding the body of the great desolation giant rippled out like a monstrous torrent. Following that, the majestic power of the great desolation giant sharply decreased, like a collapsing mountain. Bang! The chaotic storm that swept through the 9 heavens overturned the heaven and earth. The great desolation giant instantly turned into a chaotic, blood-colored wave of air. Duan Song fell from the sky like a bird with broken wings. Blood constantly flowed out of his chest and mouth. The chaotic true origin energy attached to his body was especially scattered. Palace Lord? In an instant, the entire god of war palace was suddenly in darkness. An unprecedented panic immediately filled everyone's heart. Looking at Duan Song falling from the sky, the morale of the people of the god of war palace also sank to the bottom of the valley. Duan Song was defeated. It was a complete loss. Woo! The fox cried and the wind howled. The powerful sword momentum gathered like a storm, and the sky was filled with petals like snow. A cyan fox shadow, like a peerless demon soul, enveloped the sky above the inner city. A sword stains the world with frost. Whoosh! The resonant cry of the sword shook all directions. The eyes of the fox of the Green Mountains, Jianga, were like the stars. His sword danced in the air, and a beam of sword light that was like snow and frost flashed across the sky. Bang! Even the water domain and earth domain were split apart. Panic cries rang out, and 2 figures flew out in a sorry state before crashing heavily onto the ground. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Elder Shur and Elder Shui of the god of war palace widened their eyes. Their pupils were filled with fear. He had defeated 2 great Saint King realm experts with a single sword strike. Jun Jiangu stood tall in the sky, displaying the extraordinary momentum of killing the world. At the same time, the sect leader of the Hanyin sect, Shu Yuan's aura surged. He was like a god of war as he waved the cloud halberd in his hand. The sharp light formed a ring-shaped radiance and shot towards the four ferocious poisonous beasts that were pouncing towards them from all directions. Sky breaker! Boom! Hiss! The ring-shaped, dazzling halberd light brought up a destructive power that looked like a ring of stars as it smashed down. Along with a series of shrill howls, the world-destroying light of the cloud-raising halberd pierced through the clouds like an aurora of dawn, cutting the centipede, the toad, the scorpion, and the spider into pieces at the same time. The beasts that were chopped into pieces all exploded into clouds of blue smoke. Then, Shu Yuan took advantage of the situation and rose. His arms were like holding a thunder halberd as he swung it horizontally towards the cold woman who was holding the five-poison cauldron. "Looks like you won't be able to sacrifice me to your blood cauldron today." The high-pitched voice was filled with disdain. The woman's expression changed drastically. Her cold, triangular eyes were filled with panic. The cold wind that was as fierce as a blade surged towards her. Bang! With a loud sound, the cloud halberd that was swaying with thousands of divine splendor swept in front of the opponent. Along with the power of the domain that collapsed in an instant, the woman was directly sent flying by this huge force. Blood spurted out from her mouth and then heavily smashed into a broken wall. The rubble collapsed and burst, burying the opponent under the rubble. Chaotic element extreme transformation. On the other side, the sect master of martial sect, Dongfang Hongji's extremely powerful momentum shook in all directions. Bang! The heavy power exploded in the sky above the war god palace's inner city. The particularly violent chaotic shock wave shook the sky river. Then, two figures with vigorous momentum retreated. Xianluan, the elder of the war god palace, suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. He covered his chest with his hand and stared at Dongfang Hongji, who was safe and sound in front of him. "You lost," Dongfang Hongji said coldly. One had to admit that Duansong's defeat had a great impact on the people of the war god palace. Whether it was a group of high-level elders or many low-level disciples, without exception, all of them had a mental breakdown. In such a situation, if one state of mind collapsed, it would mean a complete collapse, and they would lose everything. Soon, the second elder of the ancestral butterfly clan also took advantage of the situation to defeat the elder of the war god palace. The only great Saint King powerhouse who was still struggling was the fierce-looking old man in front of the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow. Screech! But in the next moment, the sky was filled with sacred flames, and a tornado-like crimson flame vortex poured down. Boom! Wind and thunder pierced the ears. The blazing waves were earth-shattering, soaking everyone's face and burning the high fighting spirit of all the people of the martial sect. It was as if the end of the world had collapsed and the glorious sun had arrived. The terrible flame impact merged and all rushed towards the old man of the war god palace. The old man's old face, which was full of horror, was directly reflected by the light, and there was still fear in his vicious eyes. Buzz! In an instant, the blazing flames directly engulfed the old man. The distorted space continued to tear, and the old man's territory energy was immediately swallowed into the sea of fire. What a powerful territory energy! Is this the power of the sacred, winged, heavenly flame sparrow? As expected of the demon clan that is as famous as the Green Hill Fox. Witnessing this scene, everyone inside and outside the war god palace was shocked. He had just entered the great Saint King stage, but he was already able to kill a powerhouse of the same level. The peerless elegance that the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow displayed stunned everyone. Following the defeat of Duansong and the few great Saint King stage powerhouses, the entire war god palace directly ushered in a complete collapse. It was like a dam that had been broken by a flood. It cannot be stopped at all. Kill. Roar. The martial sect, Hanyin sect, Spirit Phoenix Valley, Horse City, Soaring Rain Sect, and the other allied forces joined forces. A comprehensive counterattack began to appear. The war god palace completely fell. Amidst the countless panicked and terrified screams, blood splattered into the blue sky. In the Midland, the world had completely changed. Looking at the one-sided slaughter in the city, all the sects and forces outside the war god palace, who had stayed out of the battle, all felt great fear and uneasiness. Fear. She was really terrified. The war god palace, the overlord of the Midland, collapsed just like that. A colossus that had occupied the Midland for thousands of years was trampled under the feet of a small martial ancestor. To the other sects and forces, what a heavy blow it was. He actually won it. Wei Yin of the great Emperor Palace's smile was especially stiff. Tang Bufan and Hu Bingyu were also speechless. What had happened in front of them was just too shocking. So shocking that even they could not calm down. Lin Yinghe of the Five Elements clan let out a deep breath. His eyebrows were filled with indescribable complexity. Looking at the young figure standing on the square of the inner city that had turned into ruins, Lin Yinghe involuntarily showed a helpless smile. You won. I lost. Slaughter. Slaughter. Blood watered the ground of the war god palace. However, it was not the lives of these invaders that were used, but the blood of the war god palace itself. The invasion from all sides began to set off an especially tragic massacre. The war god palace began to be bathed in blood. Duan Tsang was covered in blood. His face was filled with deep resentment and hatred. He lay prone in the rubble, his eyes almost spitting fire. All of you deserve to die, Duan Tsang shouted fiercely. As soon as he finished speaking, a figure with an indifferent expression slowly appeared in front of him. I said, I'm going to kill you today, you bastard. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 1498. I've said it before. I'll kill you today, you bastard. Chu Hen stood in front of Duan Tsang with an indifferent expression. His calm tone did not carry the slightest fluctuation of emotions. The latter's face was filled with hatred, and his eyes were surging with thick flames. Kill me? You're too naive. No one can kill me. Duan Tsang shouted fiercely as he struggled to get up from the ground. Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, a sword with ancient runes on it was pointed at Duan Tsang's head. Facing Chu Hen's incomparably fierce and peerless aura, Duan Tsang staggered to his feet and revealed a smug and sinister smile. Ha ha ha! Demonized sacred clan, right? You dare to offend us, the desolate sacred clan, with your struggling fate? Struggling. Hearing those words, Chu Hen raised his eyebrows. What did you say? Ha ha! You better run faster. Duan Tsang laughed even more complacently, even a little deranged. Then he sneered in a strange voice. Oh, sorry, it's too late, clang. As soon as his voice fell, the already chaotic sky was once again filled with thunderstorms. As if a storm was coming, the dark tides surged and the nebula gathered. It was as if a huge millstone was hovering above the Palace of War. A mountain-like aura came crashing down, causing the hearts of everyone below to tremble. Everyone subconsciously stopped their battle. This is Dongfang Hengji, Xu Yuan, Mei Zhang, and the others couldn't help but narrow their eyes, their faces surging with solemnity. The people outside the Palace of War were also shocked. This aura is... Lin Yinghe of the Five Elements clan clenched his fists and couldn't help but frown. Rumble. As the storm converged, a vast and majestic aura enveloped the huge chaotic battlefield below. Under countless horrified gazes, more than 10 figures with powerful auras suddenly appeared in the sky above the Palace of War. Hua! An invisible pressure gushed out, and the people below felt as if they were being covered by raging waves, as if they were carrying a heavy burden. Other than Chu Hen and the Fox of the Green Hill, Jun Jianga, the other people's faces all turned pale, and their bodies faintly sank a little. Chaos, Sacred Clan, Spirit Phoenix Valley Master, Mei Zhang exclaimed. In an instant, the atmosphere inside and outside the God of War Palace changed greatly again. The major sects and forces all looked serious. Even Jun Jiang's devilishly charming face was overflowing with a trace of coldness. Ha ha! Duan-Song threw his head back and laughed. He spread his arms and looked at Chu Hin and the people behind him with a mocking expression. You can't win. You will never win. Above the void, the eyes of the people from the desolate wilderness holy clan turned cold. The person in the lead was a middle-aged man who looked to be in his 30s. His entire body exuded a domineering and cold arrogance that far surpassed Duan-Song. He looked down at the war god palace that had been reduced to ruins, and a mocking smile appeared on his face. This smile, it sent chills down one's spine and made one's hair stand on end. Did you bring people to do this? The man looked down at Chu Hin below, and his cold eyes were like two sharp swords piercing down. Chu Hin frowned slightly, but he was not afraid. It's me. Very good. The middle-aged man's mouth twitched, and then a heart-palpitating chill and coercion filled the air. In an instant, the space where Chu Hin was in was unusually uneasy, and the hidden killing intent under the coercion gradually became clear. Everyone's expression changed. However, at the same time, the sky on the other side rumbled, and another earth-shattering storm converged in the sky above the 9 heavens. What's going on? Wow! Then, there was another powerful aura that crushed the heavens and the earth. Under countless astonished gazes, a brilliant light shone, and then more than 10 figures with the same extraordinary temperament appeared in the sky above the war god palace. It's the Star Holy Clan, and the Sky-Burning Holy Clan and the Great Wilderness Holy Clan are here too. Oh my God, what day is it today? The powerful aura that filled the sky and the earth came one after another, and it made one breathless. It's them. Emperor Great Hall Tangbufan was stunned. The people who came were none other than Meng Xiaolin from the Star Holy Clan, Di Qiong from the Sky-Burning Holy Clan, and Lu Mian from the Great Wilderness Holy Clan. What are they doing here? I don't know. Everyone was confused about the appearance of these people at this time. Moreover, within a day, there were 5 people with the strongest bloodline limit of the sacred body, which made them even more dazed. So lively. Di Qiong from the Sky-Burning Clan smiled faintly. Meng Xiaolin from the Star Holy Clan turned to look at the people from the Antiquity Holy Clan. Brother Hua is here too. Long time no see, how are you? Looking at the other 3 strongest holy clans that suddenly appeared, the middle-aged man from the Antiquity Holy Clan, who was the leader, looked relieved. He said coldly, "What are you doing here?" Meng Xiaolin smiled faintly, then pointed downwards and said, "We received news that the war god palace publicly broke the rules of the Holy War enlistment. After the end of the Wind Cloud ranking war, they were filled with resentment and disregarded the rules to take revenge on the martial sect. The few of us came over to verify it." Wow. As soon as he said that, everyone was shocked, especially Duan-Song and the rest. Their expressions changed. Humph. Huawin sneered. Let's see who's taking revenge on who. Meng Xiaolin glanced at the tragic battlefield that was in a mess. It seems a little different from what I imagined, but we can't just look at the surface, right? Then, Meng Xiaolin said loudly, "I wonder who has something to say." Everyone looked at each other. The sect leader of the martial sect, Dongfang Hengji, paused for a while and cupped his fists. "I'm the sect leader of the martial sect. Dongfang Heng, what do you want to say?" Meng Xiaolin asked. After the end of the Holy War, the God of War Palace directly flouted the rules and openly brought people to attack our sect, wanting to kill us. We were in a panic, and for the sake of our livelihood, we had no choice but to gather people to resist. Is that so? Meng Xiaolin continued. Nonsense, Duan-Song retorted harshly. It was you who took advantage of the God of War Palace's unpreparedness to invade and occupy our sect, and now you're still talking nonsense here. Humph, the shamelessness of the God of War Palace is unparalleled. Let me ask you, in the Midland, who dares to offend the God of War Palace? If we weren't forced, how would we dare to fight to the death? Dongfang Hengji was also full of anger. He waved his hand and said, "Anyone in the Midland can be a witness. Who broke the rules first? Who was it that attacked our sect first? Even a 3-year-old child knows the truth. and you still dare to complain? His passionate words instantly made Duan Tsang speechless. The eyes of the people from the martial sect, Han Yun sect, Spirit Phoenix Valley, and the other forces all turned red, and their blood boiled. If they weren't forced to a dead end, who would dare to risk their lives and attack the god of War Palace? It seems that the right and wrong of this matter is already very obvious. Meng Xiaolin smiled lightly. Then, he turned to look at the people of the Wilderness Clan. Right, big brother Huawin? Why are you here? Are you here to mediate? Huawin's eyes turned cold, and he replied with a sneer, since all of you are here, it doesn't matter whether I mediate or not. But, I wonder, how are you going to deal with the god of War Palace? It's not a deal. At most, we'll mediate. After he finished speaking, Meng Xiaolin looked at the people below. According to the rules, no matter how great the enmity between the participants of the Holy War is, it can't be pursued in the outside world. As the overlord of the Midland, the god of War Palace's action of abusing their power to avenge a personal grudge is really shameful. However, the remnants of the martial sect have killed so many people of the god of War Palace, and both sides have suffered losses. If possible, why don't we both stop the war? Stop the war? Huawin snorted lightly. So, all the people of the god of War Palace died for nothing today. It's fine if they don't want to stop the war. Then let them continue to fight, and fight to the death. This is the enmity between the forces of the Midland anyway, himself. Meng Xiaolin said these two words with extra force. It was very simple. This was a conflict between the sects of the Midland. As for the other outsiders, they shouldn't get involved. I also think it's good to let them fight to the death. Di Qiong of the Heaven-Burning Saint Clan grinned. I'm just afraid that some people won't be too happy about it. After all, there are always people who bully the weak. Hearing this, Huawin's face turned slightly ugly. He let out a deep breath. Just like you said, this is the internal affairs of the sects of the Midland, and we have no right to interfere. They can do whatever they want. It's up to you, Meng Xiaolin and the others. Big brother Huawin, you really think too highly of me. I have to ask the opinion of the martial sect for this. After all, they're the victims, not? After he finished speaking, Meng Xiaolin turned his eyes to Chu Hen below. This should be the leader. Chu Hen raised his head slightly and looked at the other party calmly, neither servile nor overbearing. Di Qiong of the Heaven-Burning Saint Clan and Lu Mian of the Great Wilderness Clan couldn't help but look at each other, both reading the astonishment in each other's eyes. The aura on Chu Hen was vaguely familiar. We apologize for not being able to stop the martial sect in time for what happened this time. Revenge breeds revenge, and the War God Palace has already lost. Can you show mercy and not kill them all? Meng Xiaolin's tone was very gentle. There was an indescribable sense of approachability. Hearing the other party's words, the hostility emitted by the people of the martial sect gradually subsided. While one of the primitive Holy Clan snorted disdainfully, Chu Hen slightly narrowed his eyes and immediately replied, As for the others, I'm willing to stop, but this person... Pausing, Chu Hen's deep and dark eyes directly swept towards Duan Tsang, the palace master of the War God Palace, who was not far behind him. I will definitely kill him. The moment he finished speaking, a dark blue light flashed in Chu Hen's eyes. A blue light energy body suddenly appeared in the palm of his right hand. Bang! With a deafening sound, the ground of the inner city, which had already turned into ruins, once again collapsed rapidly. There was no time to react. A blue halo of light, like the halo of an exploding star, swept in all directions and swept across the entire place. The space immediately twisted and tore, together with the countless rocks that had turned into powder. Under the extremely shocked gazes, the incomparably terrifying pressure and tearing force all hit Duan Tsang's body. Great fear and panic covered Duan Tsang's entire face. His internal organs were ruptured, his muscles and bones were all broken, and his body, which had already suffered heavy injuries, caved in an extremely exaggerated manner. Bang! Blood splattered and bone fragments flew everywhere. Under the extremely contracted pupils, Duan Song's body directly exploded into a cloud of blood mist, and his broken internal organs splattered everywhere. Today's 2 nights. I'm inexplicably tired. Chapter 1499. As for the others, I'm willing to let it go. But this person, I must kill him. Bang! An incomparably heavy rumble instantly invaded everyone's eardrums, along with an extremely violent destructive force. A boundless blue halo rose from the center of the Battle God Palace's inner city like a meteor. The endless tearing power twisted the space and shook everyone's heart and soul. How dare you? Hua, one of the wilderness holy tribe, shouted. Looking at Duan Song, who had instantly disintegrated into pieces, everyone present had shocked expressions on their faces. The dust settled, and the airwaves spread across the sky. The sudden change astonished everyone's vision and mind. Even Meng Xiaolin of the Star Sacred Tribe, Di Qiong of the Sky Burning Clan, Lu Mian of the Wilderness Holy Tribe, and the others could not react in time. No one would have thought that Chu Hen would be so decisive in his killing. There was no room for anyone to react at all, not to mention the time to stop it. Wow! Heaven and earth trembled, and everything shook. The inner city square, which was already in ruins, had a huge crater that was more than 100 feet wide. In the crater, at that moment, only Chu Hen stood in the crater. Duan Song's aura could not be felt at all. In other words, Chu Hen's attack not only destroyed Duan Song's physical body, but also wiped out Duan Song's purple mansion Saint Soul. Completely killed. He did not give Duan Song any chance to live. A little ruthless. Meng Xiaolin of the Star Sacred Tribe shook his head and sighed helplessly. He is indeed ruthless. Di Qiong of the Sky Burning Clan also shook his head and smiled. On the other hand, Hua Wen and the others of the Wilderness Holy Tribe were burning with anger. Their eyes were filled with ferocity. They wanted to pull out all the tendons and bones of Chu Hen. How dare you kill him? Hua Wen said fiercely. Why wouldn't I dare? Chu Hen was not afraid in the slightest. Within his deep and gloomy cold eyes, there were traces of purple light. Chu Hen wouldn't spare Duan Song's life, no matter what. Putting everything else aside, just based on the matter of Shilon, Chu Hen had an absolute reason to take his life. Buzz. The invisible force that overflowed from the two intersected in the void, causing the 9 heavens to tremble. Then Hua Wen smiled. His sinister smile was filled with coldness. Very good. The future is still long. Today, I congratulate you for taking down the War God Palace. I hope that the mountains never change and the rivers never stop flowing. We will meet again someday. Congratulations. See you later. He said these words with extra force. It felt like a sharp knife was stabbing into everyone's eardrums. As soon as he finished speaking, Hua Wen coldly glanced at Meng Xiaolin, Di Qiong, and the rest before he cried out in a deep voice. Let's go. Hua. The light flickered and flickered in the sky. Along with the distorted space, everyone from the Antiquity Sacred Clan disappeared from the void in the next instant. As soon as Hua Wen left, everyone from the War God Palace seemed to have fallen into an abyss of eternal damnation. Endless darkness quickly enveloped everyone's hearts. The moment Duan Song died, there was no longer a need for the War God Palace to continue supporting the Antiquity Sacred Clan. The remaining people had no will to fight at all. Defeat. Total defeat. It was truly a complete defeat. They had been completely defeated. Seeing Hua Wen and the rest leave in anger, Meng Xiaolin and the rest looked at each other helplessly. Today, the enmity between them and the Antiquity Sacred Clan had been formed. After all, no one had expected Chu Hen to be so determined to kill Duan Song. Since Duan Song is already dead, there's no need to kill everyone else, right? Meng Xiaolin looked at Chu Hen with deep meaning and said. Chu Hen faintly nodded, but did not open his mouth to say anything. Meng Xiaolin also had no intention of staying here any longer. Let's go. Yes, it's not our turn to clean things up here, Lu Mian of the Great Wilderness Sacred Clan replied. Immediately after, The people from the three sacred clans also twisted the space of the ninth heaven and disappeared in the sky in a chaotic storm. The situation, it was as if they had returned to the starting point. They had thought that the arrival of the Antiquity Sacred Clan would wipe out the invaders of the War God Palace. However, the timely appearance of the other three sacred clans had also caused the matter to return to the level of a battle between the sects of the Midland. Duan Song's death had directly caused the remaining people from the War God Palace to lose their will to resist. Great despair filled every single one of their faces. The martial sect, Hanyin sect, and Spirit Phoenix Valley also focused their attention on Chu Hen. To be honest, the situation had changed. As long as the other party gave the order, the War God Palace would be wiped out. Everyone inside and outside the War God Palace was filled with fear. None of them dared to breathe too loudly. Chu Hen let out a long breath. He looked at the vast sky and closed his eyes. Immediately after, he opened his eyes and his gaze turned cold. "Don't let me see you people again. All of you scram. The thunderous momentum was like the majesty of an emperor who was pardoning people. Roar! Screech! In an instant, the beasts roared at the sky, like a war drum announcing victory. At this moment, all the survivors in the War God Palace had their defenses collapsed. Everyone's eyes were dim without any light. They were like abandoned stray dogs, abandoning their weapons and running away. Boom! Rumble. Inside and outside the War God Palace, smoke rose from all directions and the flames of war reached the sky. The panicked crowd fled in all directions, as if they were afraid that Chu Hen would change his mind at any time. The people of the martial sect, Hanyin sect, and Spirit Phoenix Valley were all covered in blood. They looked at each other and looked at their companions. All of them were relieved and excited. "We won," Qiu Xingyi murmured softly. "We won," Wu Yin shouted loudly. Following that, shouts and shouts resounded in the sky above the War God Palace. "Long live the martial sect. Hanyin sect won. Long live the Spirit Phoenix Valley." One side was defeated and ran away. The other side was cheering. Horse City, Flying Rain sect, and other mid-tier sects were also excited. Countless disciples knelt on the ground and shouted. Some even knelt and cried. "Ha!" Horse City Lord Luo Fan's tears rolled down his cheeks. Flying Rain sect's Han Xiu's eyes were also red. No one could understand their feelings at this moment. They had been bullied by the Soaring Cloud sect for hundreds of years. They had suffered humiliation every day. Now that the Soaring Cloud sect was gone and they were stepping on the War God Palace's territory, they did not even dare to dream of this kind of joy. Ha ha! So what if it's the War God Palace? You're still being stepped on by me, Mu Foam. Mu Foam waved the Buddha demon sword, unusually excited. "TSK, do you have any shame? What does it have to do with you? If I didn't save you, you might be on the bridge of helplessness." "Ah, all right. I owe you a favor." "That's more like it." Outside the War God Palace, the Great Emperor Palace, the Five Elements Holy Clan, the Wind Frost City, and other forces were watching the battle with complicated feelings. This battle, from the beginning to the end, they had seen it with their own eyes, without missing a single detail. But the result was beyond everyone's expectation. What a wonderful battle. Situ Hanya, the young city lord of the Wind Frost City, murmured. Many forces should be regretting now. Behind him, Sitiya's face was completely pale. She was completely shocked by the scene in front of her. Holy demon pupil body, it seems that Yin Yuantu's death was not undeserved. Tang Bufan, the Great Emperor Palace, murmured, shaking his head. The Midland, this time, a great change is really going to happen. That's really surprising. This result is so unexpected. The space was slightly twisted like ripples on water. On a magnificent cloud tower, Meng Xiaolin of the Star Holy Clan landed on the long corridor of the tower like a ghost. On the side of the long corridor, a beautiful young lady quietly looked at the chaotic battlefield in front of her. "Wow, you didn't wear a mask today? You should have done this long ago. Otherwise, it would be such a waste of your beautiful face." Meng Xiaolin raised his eyebrows and showed a bright smile. The lady didn't say anything, but only looked forward with her beautiful peach blossom eyes. "Last time, you went to the border of the blood prison to save him?" Meng Xiaolin asked. "Yes," Bai Qinyu replied. "You didn't know that he was from the demon pupil clan, did you?" Bai Qinyu didn't answer, but there seemed to be ripples in her clear eyes. Surprise flashed across Meng Xiaolin's eyes. Then he smiled and said, "How rare. A young lady by the holy-eyed sacred clan is actually helping a stranger." It was very obvious that after the Holy War's enlistment ended, Meng Xiaolin had already investigated Chu Hen's background. But what surprised Meng Xiaolin was that Chu Hen came from the East Domain and was still a new disciple of the martial sect. After all, the martial sect hadn't started recruiting new disciples yet. And Bai Qinyu, who had never been to the East Domain, definitely didn't know Chu Hen before this. So this made Meng Xiaolin even more confused. "Can't you tell me? For you, I even offended the primitive holy tribe. This time, I owe you a favor," Bai Qinyu said calmly. "Wow, there's no need for that. I'm just kidding." Before Meng Xiaolin could finish his words, the space around Bai Qinyu had already shown a dreamy distortion, and then like ripples on the surface of water, she disappeared on the spot. "Really? Too cold." Meng Xiaolin spread his hands and shrugged. Then his eyes turned to the smoke-filled battlefield, and Meng Xiaolin's eyes faintly surged a little. "What's the relationship between them? These two holy clans are together. It's really curious." Chapter 1500. The wind and clouds rose, and the sky was covered with frost overnight. The Midland. More than a month after the end of the Holy War, there was finally an unprecedented change. If the result of the ranking competition in the Chaos Devil domain was a landslide and tsunami in the Midland, then this change was definitely a doomsday collapse. The violent storm that ravaged the Midland attacked every area within a short night. The War God Palace was reduced to ruins within a day. The martial sect joined hands with the Spirit Phoenix Valley. The Hanyan clan led the Flying Rain School, the Horse City, and other forces, and directly killed their way through the entire War God Palace. The leader of the War God Palace, Duan Tsang, died in the hands of Chu Hen. Piece after piece of news spread out like deafening thunder, and it shook the various sects to the point they were panicked, uneasy, and terrified to the extreme. My God, the War God Palace lost. And they lost so miserably. Is the martial sect so terrifying? This sect used to be ranked at the bottom of the first-rate forces. Even the profound Sun Palace and the Heaven Gathering Pavilion are much stronger than the martial sect, right? It's not the martial sect that's terrifying. It's Chu Hen who's terrifying. You didn't see it with your own eyes. A mortal stage great Saint King couldn't even take one move from him. That's right. In the end, Duan Song used a trump card that he had hidden for countless years. What trump card? The 10 most powerful bloodlines, primitive holy body. My God, Duan Song is from the primitive holy clan? That Chu Hen didn't die? I thought he was dead for sure, but I never thought that Chu Hen had such a terrifying pair of eyes. That night, it was destined to be a sleepless night. No one remembered Duan Song's earth-shattering power. The world only remembered that pair of demon godlike purple eyes. The competition of the 10 most powerful holy bodies. This head-on confrontation. Chu Hen's 7-star demonic eyes firmly suppressed Duan Song's divine power. For those who saw that pair of eyes, it was like a lingering nightmare, disturbing their minds. This time, it seems that I guessed wrong. 5 Elements Sacred Clan. The old man with the walking stick was still standing at the door, looking up at the sky with his muddy eyes. Behind him, Liningha had a faint smile on his face. He looked rather relaxed. So the Great Elder also makes mistakes. Although it's a pity that I wasn't able to participate in the Martial Sect Alliance, I don't think it's a loss to see the Great Elder's expression. The old man did not reply. He continued to stare at the gloomy sky. It seems that the sky in the Midland has become even darker. Yeah, because the world is about to change. Lin Inghe replied in a deep voice. No one was optimistic about the outcome, but it became the final result. As the news of the destruction of the War God Palace swept across the entire Midland, people had no choice but to accept this difficult reality. This gigantic monster, which had occupied a part of the Midland, had finally fallen. Every sect and sect. His heart trembled with fear, especially those sects and forces that were in a hurry to cut ties with the martial arts sect. They were all dumbfounded. Those who mocked the martial arts sect for overestimating themselves were all slapped in the face. As for the profound Sun Palace, the firmament gathering pavilion, and other sects that had conflicts with the martial arts sect, they were all frightened out of their wits. Martial arts sect. It was like a bolt of lightning that had pierced through rocks and struck down, turning the war god palace upside down. The Thunder Saint clan, the luxurious and imposing hall, was silent. Everyone was silent. Everyone's faces were filled with coldness. It's the demon eye. The old man, sitting in the main hall, clenched his right fist. With a bang, the porcelain cup in his hand instantly exploded into a pile of powder. Hearing the two words demon eye, the coldness in everyone's eyes intensified. Those useless things from the war god palace. I didn't expect them to lose so badly. Luckily, we, the Thunder Saint clan, didn't intervene. If we had intervened, the result would be uncertain. We can only blame ourselves for trusting the war god palace too much. Normally, the Thunder Saint clan's hatred towards the martial arts sect and Chu Hen was no less than that of the war god palace. But this time, the Thunder Saint clan didn't participate in this war, mainly because they trusted the war god palace's power too much. Without the Thunder Saint clan, the martial arts sect couldn't escape the fate of destruction. Since the war god palace had crushed the martial arts sect with their power, the Thunder Saint clan could just stand by and watch. They could also save their face and avoid being accused of breaking the rules of the Holy War. Who would have thought, just like that, the war god palace was pierced through by the martial arts sect's spear? At the beginning, the difference in the number of great Saint Kings on both sides was more than double. With such a difference in strength, the Thunder Saint clan was defeated by Chu Hen. How could this not make the Thunder Saint clan angry? They were gnashing their teeth in hatred. After this war, the martial arts sect would be unstoppable in Midland. Although the Thunder Saint clan wasn't worried that the martial arts sect would do anything to them, the war god palace's crushing defeat was still disgusting. After a moment of silence, the old man sitting on the throne said coldly, "Send someone to find the Thunder Kuin." Thunder Kuin. Hearing these two words, the corners of everyone's eyes narrowed. The image of a cold and fierce figure that was as sharp as frost appeared in everyone's mind. On the north side of the war god palace, there was a magnificent city. This was an ancient city with a long history. Although the city wall had been renovated several times, the aura it exuded was primitive and ancient. Chu Hen, Dongfang Hung Ji, Shu Yuan, Mei Zhang, and the others stood on the city wall. In front of them were the ruins left by the war. The grand and luxurious war god palace had already become a ghost town. Especially after the crowd left, it gave people an indescribable feeling. I never thought that one day I would be able to step on the land of the war god palace. Shu Yuan's eyes were still moved. All of this seemed like a dream to him. "It's your ambition that helped you," Chu Hen replied. Shu Yuan smiled. "But I gambled with my life this time. Congratulations, you've won the bet. It was clearly you guys who had the ambition, but you made an old man like me take the hit. Who am I going to complain to?" Mei Zhang said in a rather displeased tone. Previously, he was besieged by the three great Saint King realm powerhouses of the war god palace and suffered a few solid palm strikes. If it wasn't for Jun Jiang's timely arrival, he might have died. The other smiled. "Dongfang, it's time for you to give up your position, right?" Shu Yuan said. Dongfang Hung Ji raised his thick eyebrows. "That's what I was thinking. Why don't the three sects join forces? Build a big alliance. Then we have to elect a leader. Is there a need to choose?" Receiving everyone's gaze, Chu Hen raised his eyebrows and said, "I don't want to be the leader. I still have a lot of things to do, really." Shu Yuan was slightly disappointed. "If it wasn't for the sect leader, I guess I wouldn't even participate in the Holy War. Just nominate. You don't have to manage it," Dongfang Hung Ji said. Chu Hen hesitated for a moment and just smiled. After a slight pause, Dongfang Hung Ji said something with a profound tone. "I'm very confused." "Huh?" Chu Hen was stunned. Chapter 1501. I'm confused. The three holy clans actually came. Hearing Dongfang Hengji's words, Shu Yuan and Mei Zhang, who were standing aside, looked solemn. Why do I feel strange? Chu Hen asked. The three glanced at each other, feeling even more confused. It seems that you don't know either. Know what? Chu Hen was a bit confused by the few people's words and said, such a great disturbance has been caused in the Midland. Shouldn't they show up? However, Dongfang Hengji shook his head. In fact, they don't care about this, so? The rules of the Holy War were made by all the sects and forces in Midland. The 10 most powerful holy clans didn't take part in it. They were only responsible for providing the sites for the Holy War at most, for the participants to compete. As for the enmity between the sects and forces, it has nothing to do with them. Dongfang Hengji explained. Chu Hen frowned slightly. Shu Yuan continued. No matter how much the War Deity Palace broke the rules, it's only a fight between sects in Midland. This kind of fight actually happens after the end of the Holy War. But I've never seen them interfere. And Shu Yuan paused. There was still a lingering fear between his eyebrows. And the primitive Holy Clan is behind the War Deity Palace. I believe, although we don't know, they definitely do. The War Deity Palace had been in the Midland for thousands of years. Its position had always been stable. The other holy clans definitely knew that there was another huge beast behind it. Since the Star Holy Clan and the Sky Burning Holy Clan turned a blind eye to the primitive Holy Clan's behavior, they naturally knew about it. And now, the three great sacred clans were even interfering, and were even standing in opposition to the desolate sacred clan. This was even more unexpected. The Star Holy Clan would never offend the primitive Holy Clan for such a small thing. Shu Yuan said with more certainty. After all, the three of them were the most powerful people in their sections. They were very meticulous. They could see the clues at once. Plus, they didn't have anything to do with the three holy clans, of course. They didn't interfere because of them. No matter how he thought about it, the ultimate culprit was still Chu Hen. After listening to the explanations of the three, Chu Hen suddenly felt like he was the only one who was intoxicated by the fact that everyone else was sober. He thought about it carefully. The arrival of Meng Xiulin and the others was indeed a little unreasonable. After all, who would offend the primitive divine tribe, which was also one of the 10 most powerful divine physiques, for the sake of a few small sects? What loss? It was completely unnecessary. At the thought of this, Chu Hen could not help but fall into deep thought. Could it be? Chu Hen clenched his fists and narrowed his eyes. There was an indescribable, complex expression on his face. What? What did you think of? Dongfang Hengji asked. No. Chu Hen denied it flatly. Then, he turned around and left the tower, leaving the three bewildered men behind. Could it be her? Chu Hen walked down the steps of the city gate tower and walked aimlessly in another direction. He could not help but think of a pair of bright and beautiful peach blossom eyes. The last time he was in the Chaos Demon Domain, by Qinyu also appeared there. This time, Meng Xiulin, Di Qiong, and Lu Mian all came, but he did not see her. Was this the reason? Or was there another reason? Just as Chu Hen was thinking, he caught a glimpse of a cold and aloof slender figure on the other side of the city gate tower. Jun Jianga. Chu Hen's eyes lit up. He was about to step forward to greet the other party, but at this time, there was a beautiful and refined figure that walked to Jun Jianga's side. Lord Jun Jianga, do you still remember me? There was a hint of caution in the clear voice. Jun Jianga looked slightly sideways. His long and narrow eyes were handsome and charming. The person standing in front of him was none other than the chief disciple of martial sect South Spirit Peak Academy, Qi Qianying. Looking at the green hill fox, Qi Qianying's eyes shone brightly. However, Jun Jianga's emotions did not seem to fluctuate much. He calmly stared at the elegant and beautiful young woman in front of him. 10 years ago, you saved my life. Seeing that Jun Jianga did not speak, Qi Qianying spoke again. As she spoke, she hurriedly took out a scroll from behind her. She opened the scroll in a somewhat flustered manner. On the scroll, a figure wearing a purple fox fur coat and a white high collar stood at the top of a hanging wall, holding a sharp sword in his hand. In the sky behind the figure of a green fox looked down at the blue dome of heaven. The figure of the fox covered the sky, and a rain of petals swirled. The person in the painting exuded a cold and aloof aura. And behind the aloof figure, there was a little girl in her teens, curled up. Beside her lay her family and a dozen men in black who were lying in a pool of blood. Sweeping his eyes across the scroll in front of him, Junjianga still did not show much of an expression. Then his gaze shifted away. I should go. Qi Qining turned around and saw Chu Hen standing not far behind the two of them. Looking at Chu Hen, who had appeared out of nowhere, Qi Qining hurriedly put away the painting. Did I come the wrong time? Chu Hen expressed that he really did not mean it. No, I was just waiting for you here. Junjianga replied. Chu Hen nodded slightly. Thank you for your help this time. If you need anything in the future, just let me know. No need. I was just entrusted by someone else. Chu Hen laughed. Mu Feng is very valued by the demon region. An imperceptible strange light flashed in Junjianga's eyes. He did not say anything more. Goodbye. Okay. Chu Hen cupped his fists. Saying that, Junjianga directly ignored Qi Qining and turned to leave. After a few steps, he paused, looked sideways, and said, I remember. Immediately, a green fox shadow appeared in the void, and the other party immediately leaped into the sky. Remember. Hearing these two words, Qi Qining's clear eyes lit up, and a strong sense of surprise surged in them. He remembered her. Lord Junjianga. Looking at the other party's back, Qi Qining's eyes quickly turned red. Her silver teeth bit her red lips, but she could not speak. At this moment, Chu Hen suddenly shouted, Senior Junjianga, in order to let you contact me at any time in the future, I will send someone to you so that you can send me a message. Qi Qining was stunned. She looked at Chu Hen behind her with a stunned expression. What are you waiting for? If you don't go, I will send someone else. Qi Qining was even more at a loss. You? This is an order. You also know that the sect master is about to form an alliance with sect master Shu Yuan and Valley Master Mei Zhong, right? I am the alliance master. I order you to follow Junjianga now. If he needs me, come back at any time. After a moment of shock, Qi Qining's face was filled with great gratitude. Thank you. Go. With that, Qi Qining did not hesitate. She immediately followed Junjianga's footsteps. That year, snow flew everywhere, and the wind was like a claw. Qi Qining's family was killed by her enemies. Just as she was about to lose her life, a frosty sword killed more than 10 people, saving her from the chaos. She clearly remembered the sky, full of petals dancing between heaven and earth, and the figure of a green fox whistling through the sky. The amazement brought by that sword was like a brand that could never be erased from her heart. She did not have time to thank him, nor did she have time to ask his name. Just a second before he left, he stood at the top of the cliff and looked back at her. A quick glance, 10,000 years in a glance. The charming dream was too chaotic. The floating world was nowhere to be found. Looking at the two figures disappearing into the sky, the corner of Chu Hen's mouth raised slightly, but he murmured with some emotion, Please forgive me for acting on my own. I just hope that you will not be so lonely. The spirit of Green Hill. Beyond 1,000 years of lonely wandering. The charming dream was too chaotic, and flowers bloomed on both sides of the river for another year. When I return next time, I hope to hear the good news of you summoning your lost clansmen and finding the Fox Master of Green Hill. Chapter 1502. The chaos in the Midland continued. Following the destruction of the Palace of War Gods, the territories and resources of the various regions under its control were quickly divided up. The martial sect, Han Yun School, and Spirit Phoenix Valley took over most of the territories. Old Horse City, Flying Rain Sect, New Deer City, Ocean Sky Castle, and Sangzhou region. These 5 factions and sects also took a sizable portion of the resources. They had been bullied by the Cloud Soaring School for hundreds of years. This time, Luo Zong, Han Qiu, and the others, who had chosen to risk their lives, had made the right bet. It was also this time that led to the beginning of their full rise. After the martial sect, Han Yun School and Spirit Phoenix Valley had divided up the territories of the War God Palace. Another news came out that the three forces had formed an alliance. Once this news came out, it was like throwing a heavy stone into the deep water, instantly raising a huge wave. These days, the other forces, who were already anxious, since the threat from the martial sect, Han Yun School and Spirit Phoenix Valley. People in the Midland felt that an unstoppable force was accumulating power. I didn't think that the three forces would form an alliance. What a frightening ambition. In fact, it's normal. The War God Palace has been destroyed. Those forces under its control will definitely cause chaos in the Midland. In order to avoid chaos in the Midland, the martial sect will definitely try to suppress them. I don't think they can control the situation by themselves. Therefore, the best way is to form an alliance and replace the War God Palace. They will probably surpass the War God Palace. Maybe, if we exclude the ancient holy clans. As the news about the alliance of the martial sect spread like wildfire, the situation in the Midland changed dramatically. The situation in the Midland changed again. Just like the ranking on the excellence list, it once again affected the hearts of countless people. Without a doubt, once the alliance was formed, the martial sect would definitely surpass the War God Palace and the Great Emperor Palace, and become a new giant in Midland. HM Alliance? How could they come up with this? They defeated the War God Palace, and now they really think of themselves as nobles? In the Holy Thunder Clan, in the luxurious meeting hall, people all had cold looks on their faces. Don't worry, with their abilities, they don't deserve the ambition of ruling the Midland. Just the demon I holy body alone is far from being impossible to deal with. I guess they did this because they were worried about the revenge of the primordial holy race. Let's wait and see for now. If there's anything else, we'll talk about it after Master comes out of seclusion. At the mention of the word Lord, everyone's faces were filled with reverence. Above the hall, the old man continued. When will Lei Cohen return? I'm not sure yet. I've already sent someone to look for him. Once there's news, they'll report back immediately. Martial Alliance? Isn't this name too random? Xiao Xiaowan said with disdain in a courtyard in the northern part of the War God Palace. At the very least, it should be more domineering than War God Palace or Emperor Grand Palace, right? Short-legged, you're right. This is the first time I feel like you're making sense. Mu Feng agreed. Haha, it's just a name. It's fine as long as it's simple. If the name is too domineering, it'll be useless even if it can't be suppressed, Qiu Xingyi said with a smile. Who's the Alliance Master? Yao asked. Do you even need to ask? Mu Feng raised his eyebrows, looking like he understood what she meant. Qiu Xingyi also smiled and shook his head. At this moment, a few figures walked in from outside the door. Hey, our Alliance Master is here. Mu Feng smiled slyly as he walked forward and casually put his hand on Chu Hen's shoulder. What do you say? Boss, can you give me the position of Deputy Alliance Master? I want to be Deputy Alliance Master too. Xiao Xiaowan hurriedly added. Chu Hen was speechless. He smiled and said, I'm not the Alliance Master. Stop pretending. This brother has already said it. Mu Feng pointed at Qiu Xingyi. Chu Hen looked at Qiu Xingyi in confusion. The latter stepped forward. Junior brother Chu Hen isn't willing to be the Alliance Master, so Martial Alliance will be jointly managed by Sect Master Xu Yuan, Valley Master Mei Zhang, and our Sect Master Dongfang. Tisk, boring. Mu Feng waved his hand in dissatisfaction. In reality, Dongfang Hongji, Xu Yuan, and Mei Zhang had looked for Chu Hen many times. However, Chu Hen was really not interested. Moreover, Martial Alliance's initial alliance had yet to take shape. There were many tedious matters that needed to be managed. Chu Hen did not have the leisure to take care of these matters. Of course, although he did not become the Alliance Master, everyone knew that Chu Hen had the absolute right to speak. Whether he took the position or not was entirely up to him. Junior brother Chu Hen were planning to build Martial Alliance's main city on the original location of the God of War Palace. Qiu Xingyi said. Chu Hen nodded. The location of the God of War Palace is a good place. However, all the main cities inside have been turned into ruins. The work in the later stages should be very large. Yes, the original appearance of the God of War Palace must be completely changed. I reckon that Wang Li, Wu Yin, and I will be staying here for a long period of time. If you guys don't want to stay here, why don't you return to the martial sect first? What martial sect? Return to the East region. Mu Feng said quickly. Yes, yes, yes. I wanted to say that too. Xiao Xiaoan also quickly agreed. Han Ichuan, Hao Zi, and Yao also expressed their agreement. I haven't been back for such a long time. I wonder what's the situation in the victorious East region. Looking at everyone who had the same opinion, Chu Hen could not help but have some expectations in his eyes. He glanced at the people around him as if he was looking for someone. She returned to the Spirit Phoenix Valley. Long Xuan said softly. Oh, Chu Hen was startled. She went back this morning. Before she left, she asked me to bid farewell to you on her behalf. She said that she has no plans to return to the Hundred Kingdoms region. She will find an opportunity to go back in the future. Chu Hen was not surprised by Huang Fuqing's thoughts. After all, the former homeland no longer belonged to the Sacred Star Empire. Let her be, Chu Hen said softly with a sigh of relief. When do we leave? Xiao Xiaoan asked. Do we still have to go to the Hidden Sky City to find the old man West Wind? We came here together. Mu Feng suggested. Of course. Looking at the excited people, Chu Hen shook his head helplessly. Then he said, You guys go to the Hidden Sky City first and wait for me. They were startled. Why? Aren't you coming with us? Chu Hen looked out of the hall and said, I will go with her to a place first. When I come back, I will go to the Hidden Sky City to meet you guys. Everyone followed Chu Hen's gaze and looked out of the hall. On the right side corridor of the hall, a slender and tall figure was leaning against a pillar. Her red gem-like eyes were faintly gloomy. How long will you be back? Brother Chu Hen, Yao asked. It won't be long. I will be back soon. Chu Hen rubbed her head and said, although they were in a bad mood, they were not in a hurry. All right, then let's go find the old man West Wind first. I heard that he accepted a disciple. I don't know if we should bring a greeting gift. Mu Feng rubbed his chin and thought. Forget it. What do you have to show me? Xiao Xiaoan said. From what you said, I am indeed quite poor. Then she glanced at Xiao Xingyi and said, Little brother, we helped you destroy the War God Palace's lair. Don't tell me that we don't even have a reward? Ha ha. Xiao Xingyi laughed loudly. Yes, yes. What do you need? Just tell me. Before we distribute it, I can let you have it privately. There is no doubt that the War God Palace had accumulated a lot of wealth for thousands of years. Divine artifacts, elixirs, spirit stones, martial arts manuals, all kinds of precious treasures were there. Because there were too many resources, there was no time to distribute them. Otherwise, the Demon Territory and the Ancestral Butterfly Clan would not have no reward after helping them so much. Brother, you are so straightforward. Mu Feng was not polite at all. He put his hand on Qiu Xingyi's shoulder and said, Let's go. Take us to your treasure vault. I want to go too. Me too. Yi Yao and Xiao Xiaoan also did not stand on ceremony. Both. Qiu Xingyi smiled. Amidst the noise, everyone surrounded Qiu Xingyi and walked outside. Chu Hen didn't walk with the rest of them. Instead, he walked to Mo Qing Li's side. After all, they had never crossed paths before. So, Mo Qing Li did not fit in with the others. She quietly leaned against the luxurious palace pillar. The soft sunlight sprinkled on her snow-white skin, giving her a faint sense of transparency. Mo Qing Li's facial features were very delicate. Her face was very small, and coupled with her unique temperament, she gave people the feeling of an exquisite ice sculpture. Let's go, Chu Hen said gently. She raised her head slightly and stared at Chu Hen with her red eyes. You really want to go back with me? Is there a problem? Chu Hen asked. Didn't I promise you back in Qing Chu Yuan? What if? Mo Qing Li paused and stared at him seriously. There is danger? Chapter 1503. Qianqian. The latest chapter of Divine King Wu Ji. Swoosh towering mountains and precipitous ridges. At the moment, Chu Hen and Mo Qing Li had already left the territory of the War God Palace. They had crossed more than half of the Midland and were heading west. The two of them moved quickly through the forest, heading west according to their planned route. However, Emo Qingli seemed to have something on her mind along the way. She landed slightly behind Chu Hen. Looking at his slim and determined back, Emo Qingli slightly pursed her red lips, her eyes showing some indescribable complexity. "You really want to go back with me?" This was what Emo Qingli asked in the War God Palace. She couldn't help but think of that time. "Is there a problem? Didn't I promise you when we were in Qingchu Plain? What if there's danger?" "I know." Chu Hen's answer was calm and relaxed. "Why would you? If you could go back so easily, you wouldn't have to go back to Qingchu Plain." Although Emo Qingli had never revealed her identity in details, the two of them had been together for a long time. Chu Hen could clearly sense the slight instability in the other party's emotions. Moreover, at the beginning, she was sealed in the remote and uninhabited Demon Beast Mountain range in the Hundred Kingdoms province. If she had left her clan normally, she would never have been sealed there. "Since you know there's danger, you still dare to go back with me?" "Why wouldn't I dare? I'm going back with you to give you some courage. If worst comes to worst, I'll just run away. Then remember, if there's danger, run as fast as you can. Don't worry about me." Not a bad suggestion. Facing Ling's face was a cool breeze. Looking at the young figure walking in front of her, Emo Qingli's expression was a little dazed. "Seems like we're almost there. Is it the Maple Wing Sky Valley you mentioned before?" Chu Hen's gentle voice came from in front of her. Emo Qingli paused. Her thoughts stopped, and she looked forward with her red eyes. In the depths of the dragon-like mountain range, a forest of maple trees was like a vast and boundless red ocean. They were different from ordinary maple trees. Looking from afar, the maple trees growing there were exceptionally tall and sturdy. The tallest tree was actually 200 to 300 meters tall, which was especially spectacular. The lush leaves covered the sky like countless opened umbrellas, blocking out the sky. Emo Qingli nodded her head, her expression solemn. The Maple Wing Sky Valley covered a vast area and was located on the edge of the Midland, almost at the border between the Midland and the Western Domain. It was surrounded by steep and lofty mountains and valleys. Almost no one set foot in it. Not only were there no traces of humans, but there were also very few large demonic beasts that lived here. The reason was very simple. It was because one of the most powerful demon clans in the world lived here, the Sacred Winged Heavenly Flame Sparrow clan. The Sacred Winged Heavenly Flame Sparrow clan was extremely powerful. They were even as famous as the Nine-Tailed Fox clan. However, the Sacred Winged Heavenly Flame Sparrow clan had long since left the demon region and formed their own clan. As a result, they rarely appeared in the outside world. "Let's go. The target in the air is too obvious," Emo Qingli said. Chu Hen slightly raised his handsome eyebrows. "As expected, we can't go home openly. If you go back now, it's still not too late. We'll see. I don't want to run now." Then, the two of them moved, one on the left and the other on the right, turning into two streaks of afterimages as they rushed into the fiery red maple forest. The cold and quiet hall was filled with a frightening majesty. "I've received news that the target has left the Midland 10 days ago." "Oh? Where'd he go?" "The Maple Wing Sky Valley." The Maple Wing Sky Valley seems to be the territory of the Sacred Winged Heavenly Flame Sparrow clan. That's right. But as far as I know, many years ago, a very serious civil war broke out among the demon clans. The current leader overthrew the old emperor. "Ah, I see. Continue to keep an eye on the target. Since he dares to leave the Midlands so boldly, we can't let his kindness down." "Yes." A cold laughter resounded in the hall. Under the dim light, a pair of cold eyes shone like sharp blades. The fiery red maple forest covered the sky and the sun. As Chu Hen and Emo Qingli went deeper and deeper, the surrounding environment became more and more quiet. The two of them slowed down. Swoosh. Following that, Emo Qingli was the first to land on a sturdy branch and stop in her tracks. Chu Hen also stopped beside her. "What's wrong? We can't go any further. There's a protective barrier." "Oh?" Chu Hen paused. He sensed the rhythm of the surrounding air, but didn't notice anything unusual. In the next moment, Chu Hen's mind focused. He gently closed his eyes and then lifted his eyelids. Wong, along with a bizarre spatial movement, his deep and pitch-black pupils immediately turned into a bewitching purple color. Then, the space in front of him turned dreamy. About 100 meters in front of him, there was a thin, dark light screen, which looked like a huge screen, sealing off a large area of the forest. What a secret barrier! Chu Hen was secretly shocked. From the surface, he couldn't even feel the slightest vibration of power. If he didn't have a pair of demonic eyes, he definitely wouldn't be able to notice the existence of the barrier. Yes, this is the highest level of protection in our clan. Except for the clansmen inside, outsiders can't sense it at all. Do you know how to open the barrier? Chu Hen asked. Yes, but I haven't been back for a long time. If the way to open the barrier has changed, it will directly alarm the people inside. Mo Qing Li's tone was a bit serious. Chu Hen narrowed his eyes and said, Then what should we do? Otherwise, if I accidentally break in as an adventurer, you can hide in my Zhan Yuan purple palace like before. I will take you in. No, that's too risky. Mo Qing Li immediately rejected. Then do you have another way? Yes. Mo Qing Li nodded, but her eyes revealed a bit of hesitation. After a moment of hesitation, she jumped down and landed on the ground. Then, a few red vortexes emerged from her body. Under Chu Hen's surprised gaze, the vortexes slowly rotated next to her feet and then turned into a small talisman array with a diameter of 2 meters. What are you doing? Chu Hen also landed on the ground and looked at her with a puzzled expression. I hope it's still useful. As Mo Qingli spoke, she raised her wrist. Whoosh! Chi runes appeared, and a simple red jade appeared in her palm. Then, Mo Qing Li's red lips moved slightly as she mumbled something. The beautiful red jade was actually swaying with a faint soft light, like ripples on the surface of the water, spreading outwards in circles. At the same time, the talisman array under her feet also emitted bursts of light, and an illusory wall of light appeared at the edge of the array. As soon as the fluctuations of power emanating from the red jade came into contact with the light wall, they were immediately repelled. Seeing this scene, Chu Hen could not help but reveal a solemn expression on his face. Too cautious. What was the reason? That was why Mo Qing Li was so careful and didn't dare to transmit even the slightest bit of energy. However, at this moment, there was a slight sound of air currents coming from behind the forest. Chu Hen's heart skipped a beat. Looking back, through the detection of his demon eyes, he saw a figure rushing through the enchantment array. Someone's coming. At the same time, Mo Qing Li's jade-like hand grasped the red jade. Yes. Seeing that Mo Qing Li's expression didn't change much, Chu Hen understood that the other party wasn't an enemy. With a thought, the purple light in his eyes quickly disappeared. Very quickly, the person arrived in front of him. The other party was wearing a bright silver light armor. He looked to be around 30 years old and had a heroic aura. Between his brows, there was a sense of caution. When he saw Mo Qing Li standing next to Chu Hen, he couldn't help but quicken his pace. Then, under Chu Hen's surprised gaze, the person excitedly walked in front of Mo Qing Li and knelt on one knee. Subordinate Chi Shou greets the princess. Today there are 2 chapters. Chapter 1504. Subordinate Chi Shou greets Your Highness. Your Highness? Chu Hen was clearly stunned when he heard how the newcomer addressed Mo Qing Li. He was a little surprised as he looked at her exquisite and beautiful face. Does this mean that Mo Qing Li is the daughter of the sacred-winged Heavenly Flame Sparrow Clan's emperor? Even though Chu Hen had guessed that Mo Qing Li's status in the Heavenly Flame Sparrow Clan was not low, he did not expect it to be so noble. Brother Qi, please rise. There's no need for such formalities. Mo Qing Li hurriedly stepped forward to support him. Qi Shou rose as well, his eyes filled with emotion. Your Highness, you're finally back. I have to thank you, Brother Qi. If you hadn't sealed me in the eastern region, I would have been killed. Alas, Qi Shou sighed. Back then, I had no choice but to resort to such a method. I hope your highness can forgive me. I know that Brother Chi intended to help me. Otherwise, you would not have left a gap in the seal and given me a chance to escape. Mo Ching Li's tone was filled with gratitude. Chisho shook his head and sighed. He then looked at Chu Hen and said, I have yet to ask this little brother. This junior is Chu Hen. It's her, a friend of your highness, Chu Hen replied. Chisho nodded. I am Chisho, the commander of the Heavenly Flame Sparrow clan. Chisho did not ask too much about Chu Hen's identity and background. He knew very well that since Mo Ching Li had brought Chu Hen here, she was absolutely trustworthy. Where is my father? Mo Ching Li bit her lip and asked anxiously. Your highness, don't worry. The emperor is still alive. Mo Ching Li immediately relaxed when she heard this. Then where is he? Chisho looked up and said in a low voice. After Ming Mie usurped the throne, he did not kill the emperor. Instead, he locked him in the Wailing Abyss. Wailing Abyss. Mo Ching Li's eyes were filled with coldness as she clenched her fists. That damned bastard. How dare he treat my father like this? Chisho also sighed softly. Back then, when Lord Clan Emperor was caught off guard, he severely injured him and sealed him. Otherwise, the entire clan wouldn't have fallen under his control. Listening to the conversation between the two of them, Chu Hen's doubts were resolved and sorted out. It turned out that the current ruler of the Sacred Wing Heavenly Flame Sparrow race was not Mo Ching Li's father. Today, the person in power had overthrown the previous clan emperor and imprisoned him in prison. It was because of the internal strife that Mo Ching Li was forced to flee the valley. This strategist commander, Chisho, had been ordered to kill her. On the surface, Chisho had submitted to the new Wang Ming Mie, but in reality, he was still loyal to his old master. In order to save Mo Ching Li's life, he didn't kill her. Instead, he sealed her in the 100 Kingdoms province, which was located at the edge of the eastern domain, far away from the Midland. Using the hole that Chisho purposely left in the seal, Mo Ching Li finally found a chance to escape. Coincidentally, he met Chu Hen that day. The confusion that had always existed in his heart was finally dispelled. He didn't expect Mo Ching Li's life to be so rough. No wonder he didn't dare to come back rashly. Can I see father? Mo Ching Li suddenly asked. Chu Hen was startled and looked at the other party in astonishment. If that was the case, it would be difficult for her to move even a single step inside. However, Chisho hesitated for a moment, then nodded solemnly. You can only go in as me, yes. Mo Ching Li agreed. Then, under Chu Hen's surprised gaze, Mo Ching Li took 2 steps back. Then, her beautiful eyes narrowed. Buzz! A colorful circle of light flowed out of her body. The circle of light surrounded her like a dreamy whirlpool, then enveloped her. Why? Quickly after, a circle of scattered light rippled out. Chu Hen's heart went blank, only to see 2 Chisho that looked almost exactly the same standing in front of him. The transformation technique my father taught me. The transformed Mo Ching Li replied in the same voice as Chisho. Chisho nodded in approval. As expected of the princess. Even your aura is the same. How to enter the barrier? It's the same as before. Chisho replied. Looks like Feng Mie is very confident. He's not worried that I'll return at all. Although the barrier hasn't changed, the Wailing Abyss is heavily guarded. You need my token to enter. As he spoke, Chisho took out a palm-sized golden token. The token flickered with a beautiful light. It was engraved with exquisite patterns and a picture of a sacred sparrow. It was obvious that it was a token of a high status. Mo Ching Li took the token, then turned to look at Chu Hen. Wait for me here with Brother Chi. If I don't return by tomorrow morning, leave this place. Chu Hen nodded slightly. Be careful. Yes. With that, Mo Ching Li left in the direction Chisho had come from. When she passed by the barrier, she paused for a moment. Then, she formed a few seals with her 10 fingers. A thin layer of light faintly appeared in the air. Mo Ching Li passed through it, as if she had passed through a water curtain. At this moment, the sky had already darkened. The dusky night sky was like the hand of a nightmare that extended to every corner of the world. as he watched Mo Ching Li's figure disappear into the depths of the forest. Chu Hen's eyes faintly revealed a hint of solemnity. "Will I be discovered?" Chu Hen asked in a low voice. Chisho smiled. "When you were very young, Your Highness often used this transformation technique to pretend to be the Emperor to tease me. At the beginning, I could still distinguish the real from the fake, but later on, even I couldn't see any flaws. With Your Highness's intelligence, as long as you don't meet Ming Mia, you definitely won't be discovered." Hearing this, Chu Hen relaxed slightly. Woo! The cold wind was like the roar of a ghost. Relying on the transformation technique to disguise herself and her familiarity with the environment of the clan, Mo Ching Li arrived unimpeded in a vast and enormous valley. Around the valley, there were cliffs and precipitous cliffs. In the depths of the valley, there was a pitch-black tunnel entrance. Like the mouth of a giant beast from the abyss, there was a faint, strange, and shrill roar coming from the depths of the tunnel entrance. Who dares to trespass the forbidden area? At this moment, a cold, reprimanding voice came from the entrance of the valley. 7 or 8 figures wielding cold spears and wearing imposing heavy armor blocked the person who came. "So it's Lord Chisho." The eyes of the middle-aged man in black armor brightened. He hurriedly stepped forward with a flattering smile. "May I know why Lord Chisho has come here in the middle of the night?" Chisho raised his cold eyebrows and replied indifferently. "This commander needs to go down." "Oh, Lord Chisho is also going to the Wailing Abyss? Why? Is there a problem?" "Lord Chisho, the Wailing Abyss is a forbidden area of our clan. Anyone who wants to enter must obtain the permission of the clan emperor." "Umph, do you think I would disturb the clan emperor for such a trivial matter?" The guard revealed a difficult expression. After hesitating for a moment, he continued to ask, "May I know why Lord Chisho is going down?" "There's no harm in telling you. I want to find Huang Tsang and ask for the whereabouts of the Great Demon Slaughter Record so that I can offer it to the clan emperor." The eyes of all the guards lit up when they heard the words Great Demon Slaughter Record. "Lord Chisho knows where our clan's supreme scripture is. I've already found some clues. I plan to get some information out of Huang Tsang's mouth. If I can find the Great Demon Slaughter Record, no matter if it's to you or to me, it'll be a great merit. So, before this, I can't let the clan emperor know. At that time, I'll give him a surprise." "I see. As expected of Lord Chisho. You're really considerate. Can you let me go down now?" "Of course. However, if Lord Chisho is able to find the Great Demon Slaughter Record, I hope you can put in a good word for us brothers in front of the clan emperor." "Of course. If I succeed, I'll definitely give all of you a share of the credit." "Thank you, Lord Chisho." As soon as he finished speaking, the guard beamed with joy, and the flattery on his face became even stronger. "Quickly move aside and escort Lord Chisho down. There's no need for that. I'll go in alone. All of you stand guard here, and don't let any outsiders in." "Understood." After that, Chisho's figure flashed into the ravine. Swoosh! Without any hesitation, he passed through the depths of the ravine and arrived at the bottom of the passageway. He welcomed the bone-piercingly cold wind as he leaped into the abyss. Darkness filled every corner of the abyss. The bottom of the abyss seemed to be connected to the legendary hell. The air was filled with the cries of evil spirits, and it caused one's scalp to go numb. There was no daylight here. The yin energy was extremely dense. To the saint-winged heavenly flame sparrows that innately loved light and heat, staying here for even a second longer was uncomfortable. At this moment, there was a faint, low glow faintly swaying below. On both sides of the precipitous abyss, there were over a dozen huge iron chains. For example, the horizontal river chain. The iron chains were connected to a floating platform in the middle. On the platform, there was a cage that was nearly 100 meters wide. From afar, the cage was burning with a layer of gray, cold flames that plundered the heat in the air. Swoosh! Chisho jumped down and lightly landed on the platform. His eyes were filled with difficulty as he looked at the surroundings. Then, a deep but majestic figure appeared. Has Ali returned? Chapter 1505. Has Ali returned? The deep voice was like an invisible wave spreading across the abyss, with an indescribable grandeur. Chisho, who was standing outside the cage, trembled. He hurriedly walked up the steps in front of him and hurriedly walked towards the cage in the center of the platform. "Father, it really is Ali." The gentle tone carried an innate majesty of an emperor. A stalwart and domineering man sat upright in the cage. The man looked to be in his 40s or 50s. His eyebrows reached his temples, mixed with some white hair. Even so, he did not look old at all. His hands and legs were wrapped in dark, cold chains. Even though he was in the state of a prisoner, the invisible, domineering aura of a ruler was still unmistakable. "Father!" Emo Chingli cried out in shock, at the same time changing back to her original appearance. "I'll get you out now." With that, Emo Chingli was about to rush forward. But before she could get close to the cage, there was a buzzing sound, and the gray flame attached to the bars of the cage suddenly became incomparably strong. The cold flame rose up, blocking in front of Emo Chingli like a ghost guard. "Don't come over. With your cultivation, you can't break the seal personally set by annihilation, damned annihilation." Emo Chingli gritted her teeth, her jade-like hands clenched into fists, her knuckles faintly turning white. Looking at the once high and mighty emperor, now reduced to a prisoner, Emo Ching-li's eyes reddened, and tears welled up in her eyes. "Father, you've suffered. I'm already very happy to be able to see you again. I heard from Chisho that you were sealed at the border of the eastern region." Emo Ching-li replied. "With Chisho's cultivation, even if he left a gap in the seal for you, you wouldn't be able to escape unscathed, right?" "Father's prediction is indeed accurate." Emo Ching-li nodded slightly, her ruby-red eyes faintly showing a hint of gentleness. "After breaking the seal, I met someone." The sky gradually warmed, and the soft light of dawn shone through the thick clouds onto the ground. The beautiful light shone through the branches into the maple forest, expelling the coldness and darkness in the forest. "It's daybreak." Within the forest, Chu-hen muttered in a low voice. His gaze followed the direction that Emo Chingli had left yesterday. According to the other party, if she wasn't back by daybreak, there was no need to wait any longer. However, Chu-hen had no intention of leaving. "Looks like it's a very important person," Chisho suddenly said. "Huh?" Chu-hen was startled. The other party smiled. "You're someone Her Highness values very much. I know her very well. I watched her grow up." Chu-hen didn't know how to answer. "Our princess doesn't have a good temper, does she?" Chisho chatted with Chu-hen a little like an elder brother. Chu-hen pondered for a moment and then shook his head. "It's all right. I don't think there's anything wrong with it." "Why?" Chisho laughed heartily. "She didn't show it in front of you? Her Royal Highness is very stubborn. Other than His Majesty Huangsong, who can control her, no one can do anything to her. But she is very kind. If she does something wrong in the future, it is definitely not her intention. I hope that little brother can forgive her." Hearing the other party's words, Chu-hen couldn't help but have a strange feeling. Why did it feel a little strange? It was as if an elder was advising him. Chisho only smiled when he saw Chu-hen's slightly embarrassed expression. "She's back," Chisho said. Chu-hen raised his brows and looked to the side. He saw another Chisho walking over from the depths of the forest. "Your Highness!" Chisho hurriedly went forward. Chu-hen also walked forward. "How is it? Did you see your father?" The other party nodded, but his expression wasn't very good. "What did the Emperor say to you?" Chisho asked. The other party didn't answer. He just looked at Chu-hen and gritted his teeth, a gloomy expression on his face. "What happened? Is there a way to save him?" Chu-hen asked again. "Let's go." "Go." Chu-hen was stunned. Chisho couldn't help but frown. The relaxed expression on his face immediately disappeared and was replaced with seriousness. "Yes, let's go back." The other party nodded affirmatively, then turned to Chisho and said, "Big Brother Chi, I'll leave father to you. I'll contact you in the future." Chisho agreed solemnly. "Don't worry. As long as Ming Miet doesn't get the Great Demon Slaughter record, he won't kill the Emperor. You be careful. I know what I'm doing." Chisho then looked at Chu-hen. Little brother, please take care of Her Highness. Chu Hen cupped his fists. I will. Chisho revealed a look of approval and gratitude. Leave before the guards come out to patrol. Farewell. Outside Maple Wings Sky Valley, Mo Qingli, who had already returned to her original form, didn't say a word. She looked like she had a lot on her mind. It seemed that after meeting her father, she didn't feel relieved at all. Instead, she became even more gloomy. What's wrong? Chu Hen blocked her way and asked in a low voice. Nothing. You're making me very uncomfortable. If you want to save your father, I can help. Even if the two of us can't do it, we can ask Sect Master Dongfang and Sect Master Shu Yuan for help. Duan Ling Tian said. Chu Hen looked straight into his eyes and explained to him. However, Mo Qingli chose to avoid Chu Hen's gaze. It's no use. It's not as you think. Don't worry about me. As she finished speaking, Mo Qingli walked past her and continued on her own. Chu Hen didn't understand. She seemed unwilling to tell him something. Are you sure you want to go back like this? I said you don't have to worry about this. Mo Qingli's back was facing Chu Hen. She paused, then continued. I will think of a way to deal with my father. You should go back to the Midland. Aren't you going to the Eastern region? With that, she was about to leave. Chu Hen couldn't help but feel helpless. I said. Before he could finish, Chu Hen's expression suddenly changed. Be careful, boom. Not waiting for Chu Hen to catch up to the other party, the ground suddenly collapsed, and the faults overlapped. Together with a violent and terrifying power that was like a mountain torrent, the ground between the two instantly exploded inch by inch. Boom! Bang! Beams of red light shot up into the sky like magma rising from the Earth's core. Wherever they went, space was overturned and mountains and rivers were crushed. Chu Hen and Mo Qingli were both shocked. Mighty and ferocious shockwaves blasted the two of them away, one to the south and one to the north. Wah! Immediately afterward, an enormous pressure shrouded them, accompanied by a layer of extremely dense domain power. Heaven step, great Saint King. Chu Hen's face darkened. Hell, we meet again. A mocking voice filled with ridicule sounded out. In the next second, three gloomy figures with extraordinary auras suddenly appeared in the sky. Especially the leader, his aura was especially strong. It's you. Chu Hen's pupils slightly shrank as he coldly stared at the leader. The leader was none other than Hua, one from the primitive Holy Clan. Storms gathered and cyclones roared. The shockwaves between the heavens and the earth were like a huge whirlpool that began to erode and sweep through the surrounding jungle. The three people led by Huawen looked down at Chu Hen with disdain. The corners of their mouths curved in a mocking way. I've already reminded you before. The mountains will never change, and the rivers will always flow. We will meet again, someday. It seems like you didn't take my words to heart. The corners of Chu Hen's eyes turned cold. Humph. So the Great Desolation Clan, one of the 10 strongest divine clans, is also the same kind of trash as the War God Palace. You can curse a few more times. The greater your anger before death, the greater your despair. A cold light flickered in Chu Hen's eyes as he felt the powerful pressure sweeping toward him. He glanced at Mo Qingli and said in a low voice, You go first. Mo Qingli's expression changed, and she clenched her fists. No, their target is me. You should go first. Chu Hen's voice was filled with unquestionable determination. You're right. Huawen crossed his arms in front of him, and a mocking expression appeared on his face. Our target is indeed you. However, this little holy vermilion bird needs to run faster. After we get rid of you, I'm also going to kill her. Ha ha! He laughed wildly, as if he was looking at a bird in a cage. Let's go. Chu Hen yelled at Mo Qingli. Then, he dashed in the opposite direction at an explosive speed. Huawen sneered. If you still manage to escape, the name of the primitive Holy Clan will be written upside down. Stop him. Yes. The moment he finished speaking, the two people behind him leaped into the air. Buzz, a powerful wave of air spread through the forest. The two people stood in the east and west respectively and slammed their palms into the ground at the same time. Heaven and earth sealing technique. Bang. Boom! In an instant, for huge black light curtains rushed out of the ground and sealed off the forest within a radius of several dozen kilometers. The solidified light screen formed a magnificent black cube between heaven and earth. However, this powerful barrier had purposely isolated Mo Qingli from the outside world. Hee, it's time to test your camaraderie. It's up to you whether you want to watch him die or run away first. Hua was like a cat toying with Haozi. He enjoyed the feeling of toying with Mo Qingli in the palm of his hand. Mo Qingli was both shocked and anxious. She repeatedly unleashed powerful attacks at the blacklight curtains, but the impact was like a clay ox entering the sea. The curtains only trembled a little, unable to penetrate them at all. Save your strength. You won't be able to break it, even if I give you a day. Huan smiled calmly. At the same time, Chu Hen's entire body was swaying with strands of manic lightning light. The two of you have trapped me with a barrier. It looks like you plan to fight me alone. Chu Hen, who had gradually calmed down, revealed a profound look in his eyes. So? Huan raised his eyebrows. So, if you fight me alone, you won't even know how you died. Whoosh! Rapid waves of air trembled and reverberated in all directions. The instant his voice faded, Chu Hen's eyes lifted. His deep and serene pupils astonishingly erupted with a demonic purple light. In an instant, an invisible spatial rhythm swept out. The corner of Hua Wen's eyes shrank. He suddenly felt his divine sense blur. Chi. In the next instant, frost filled the sky and lightning crisscrossed. In just an instant, Chu Hen suddenly disappeared on the spot. Accompanied by an extremely violent, thunderous momentum, a fierce figure with the eyes of a demon god appeared behind Zhonghua, one in the sky. Chapter 1506. If you're alone, you won't even know how you died. As soon as his voice fell, a sharp wave of air trembled and rumbled. Along with thousands of brilliant lightning rays crisscrossing, the incomparably manic momentum above the void was like the cry of thousands of thunderbirds. Chi. A cold glint flickered within his bewitching and demonic purple pupils. Like a phantom, Chu Hen appeared behind Huawen. Streaks of swift and fierce lightning streaked across his palm as he launched a fatal thrust straight towards Hua Wen's back. Clang! The sky shook as lightning rays illuminated the sky. Thousands of lightning rays exploded. The corners of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed as he saw a palm that was as powerful as an eagle's claw directly intercept Chu Hen's wrist. The lightning power that rapidly penetrated the attack hit the air. Humph, you're underestimating me. Huawen, too much if you want to play this kind of trick in my domain. The corners of Huawen's mouth drew back, suffused with a cold sneer. Do you really think you're invincible after defeating Duan Song? Humph. Those who died in my hands before are as proud as you are. As soon as he finished speaking, the purple light in Chu Hen's eyes flourished. Following that, another kind of dark green lightning rays bloomed on his other arm. Chi. The different colored lightning rays immediately intertwined and covered Chu Hen's arm, transforming into a peerlessly sharp palm blade. Along with the rapid sound of the air being cut, the lightning palm blade dragged out a string of arcs as it slashed horizontally towards the opponent's head. Huawen coldly smiled. At the same instant that the palm blade was about to touch his body, with a swoosh, an afterimage swayed in the air, and the opponent astonishingly disappeared. So fast, Chu Hen's expression changed. However, in the next moment, a fierce and rapid aura swept towards him from behind like a storm. Naive people are often ridiculously stupid. Chu Hen was shocked and hurriedly turned his head. Buzz, a violent heavy punch with the power to break thousands of kilograms, fell down. In a moment of panic, Chu Hen immediately crossed his arms in front of his body to block. Bang! A heavy muffled sound reverberated in the air, and a circle of red light mixed with gorgeous thunder patterns blossomed. The powerful fist energy contained the power of a mountain. Chu Hen felt his arms go numb, and his body trembled violently. Suddenly, he was sent flying downwards. Too weak. Huawen sneered disdainfully. After that, strands of powerful and domineering bloody steam rose from his body, and the aura he emanated increased exponentially. Every inch of his flesh and blood seemed to contain a primordial explosive power that could destroy the world. Huawin's brows raised slightly as he watched Chu Hen descend swiftly, and his eyes were filled with disdain. It's hard to believe that Duan Song would actually lose to someone as weak as you. Buzz. Along with the sound of his voice, countless condensed bloody steam rapidly gathered on Hua Wen's arm. In the next second, Hua Wen's entire arm seemed to have been soaked in the magma of the Earth's core, and it was as red as a soldering iron. With him as the center, the surrounding space violently distorted. Exploding heaven's flow, Hua Wen shouted coldly. Following that, he blasted out a punch. Buzz. The vast airflow between heaven and earth was instantly penetrated, and a primordial fist pillar that was like the Milky Way pierced through the sky. It swept up an incomparably violent and destructive aura as it smashed down towards Chu Hen below. This fist pillar was enough to penetrate mountains and rivers. Wherever the terrifying pressure went, the space was torn apart inch by inch. While moving downwards, Chu Hen's eyes darkened. Facing the majestic momentum that was pouring down, the 7 black dots in the depths of his eyes chased and rotated. Whoosh! A sharp sound spread out in the air, and an invisible sharp light spread out in all directions. In an instant, dozens of identical purple light shields appeared in midair. These light shields rapidly moved and quickly arranged into a huge triangular shadow blade. The sharp tip flew up like a giant eagle that pierced through the sky. It dragged out a vast cyclone and tore through space to meet the descending primordial fist pillar. Boom! Clang! As soon as the purple triangular shadow blade and the red primordial fist pillar collided, heaven and earth shook. It was as if a meteorite from the 9th heaven had collided with an Aurora shuttle. A chaotic shockwave that could overturn the earth completely exploded in midair. The fierce fist energy and the sharp shadow blade intertwined and tore apart each other. The light pierced through the sky, and the earth collapsed. The ground beneath them cracked open rapidly, and the lush vegetation in the forest was crushed into powder. Chi. Following the aftershock, Chu Hen quickly landed on the ground. His body leaned forward slightly, and at the same time, he stabilized his balance, and at the same time, both his feet dragged on the ground for more than 10 meters. Oomph! Chu Hen's eyes were cold, and his pair of demonic eyes were filled with caution. As one of the 10 strongest sacred physiques, no matter what, he had to be respected, especially since Hua Wen's strength was far beyond Duan Song's. Boom! In the next moment, the incomparably chaotic shockwave in the sky directly pierced through a huge gap, and a powerful figure that was wrapped in blood-red steam rushed down with a violent momentum. Chu Hen's complexion slightly changed. He hurriedly retreated. Bang! The earth collapsed and rocks exploded. Countless large and small rocks directly broke free from gravity and flew up like a swarm of locusts. A mighty cyclone covered the sky and covered the earth. Amidst the flying rocks, Hua Wen was like a ferocious and cruel beast, exploding with extremely fatal attacks and movement speed. Swish! The distance between the two instantly disappeared, and Hua Wen caught up to Chu Hen as if he had teleported, and his fatal attack was aimed at the other's vital points. Relying on the observation of the power of the demonic eyes, Chu Hen also made a series of precautions. The two collided and constantly blasted the ground of the forest. At the same time, Mo Qingli was still constantly attacking the barrier in front of him from the outside. However, this universe-sealing technique was set up by combining the power of 2 great Saint King realm experts. Every inch of the light curtain was as solid as gold. No matter how Mo Qingli attacked, this black square space barrier that covered dozens of miles of the forest was as stable as a mountain and did not move. Anxiety. It covered Mo Qingli's entire face. Other than watching, there seemed to be no other way. And the other 2 people in the black square space barrier seemed to have no interest in Mo Qingli at the moment. They only maintained the universe-sealing technique barrier and had no intention of attacking Mo Qingli at all. Their mission was to absolutely not give Chu Hen any chance to escape. Obviously, the Chaos Holy Clan's goal this time was only to kill Chu Hen. It was enough as long as he killed the other party. As for the others, their attitude was more or less indifferent. However, even if the other two people did not directly attack, the pressure of three great Saint King realm experts was still there. The huge pressure of the three domains could not be ignored. The Chaos Holy Body had the strongest explosive power among the 10 strongest blood meridians, and in a head-on collision of power, Chu Hen was more or less at a disadvantage. Even if Demon I could predict Hua Wen's attack in advance, but the gap in cultivation level was not enough for Chu Hen to disrupt the opponent's rhythm. Under the storm-like fierce attacks, Chu Hen gradually showed that he was straining a bit. Bang! The ferocious red fist energy and the sharp purple palm energy collided head-on. A shockwave spread out in all directions and split the ground and forest. As the purple electric light was shattered, Chu Hen's figure retreated again. You can't hold on anymore? That's really a pity. Huawen's mouth curled into a sneer. Following that, a strong, cold, and vicious aura burst out from his eyes, and a monstrous, majestic aura rose behind him. He immediately jumped up, and like a flood that broke through a dam, surged out violently. Disappear. Hee. The cold laughter sent chills down one's spine. However, at this moment a loud bang rang out. Along with the flying rocks, a huge purple fiend god's hand stretched out from the ground. The soaring aura was like the claw of a giant demon, pouncing toward Huawen. The latter's expression changed slightly. He repeatedly exploded with the power of chaos to meet the attack head-on. Bang! The chaotic shock wave was comparable to an exploding flood, and the wantonly released aftershocks intertwined, crushing the entire forest inside the barrier. The peerless purple claw was like an absolute defense, completely crushing Huawen's attack. Chi! At the same time that Huawen retreated, Chu Hen's demonic and charming demonic god eyes emitted an extremely strong spatial fluctuation. Rumble! The ground beneath him completely exploded, and a heavy and vast aura soared into the sky. Behind Chu Hen, countless purple whirlpools of light rapidly intertwined and intertwined. Then, a giant warrior covered in heavy armor appeared in front of Huawen and the other two. He looked like a demon god. Endless purple light covered his entire body, and the world lost its color. A vast and mighty wave of qi revolved around Chu Hen. His cold eyes stared at his opponent like a sharp blade. 7-star Demon Eye, Destruction Demon Spirit. Chapter 1507. 7-star Demon Eyes, Demon Spirit of Destruction. Rumble, the ground cracked and cracked. A purple-colored whirlpool of light soared into the sky, and a boundless and terrifying aura swept out. A huge demon spirit that was 100 feet deep appeared behind Chu Hen, as if it was a war god. Buzz, a powerful aura, shook the heavens and the earth, and a cold wind blew. Once the demon spirit of destruction appeared, the entire space within the boundary immediately became uneasy. Mo Qingli, who was blocked outside the boundary, also had a change of expression. Chu Hen was forced to use this move so quickly. Huawen was so powerful. Wah! Mighty airwaves covered the sky and the earth, spreading out in all directions. Huawen sneered as he looked at the huge demon spirit behind Chu Hen that was emitting an endless aura of destruction. Humph, I was waiting for this move of yours. As soon as he finished speaking, Huawen clapped his hands together and strange black secret scriptures appeared all over his body, along with the power that rose into the sky. Rumble! The mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. Countless streams of violent magma flowed through the earth and shot into the sky. The blood-red light beam enveloped Chu Hen's surroundings like a storm of rock pillars. Then, with the demon spirit of destruction as the center, a mysterious talisman array that was more than 1,000 meters in diameter flickered on the ground beneath it. The black formation pattern was like a large, irregular net that had been spread out among the cracks and walls on the ground. Chu Hen's heart was startled. He had a bad feeling about this. Heaven and Earth sealing techniques, second stage. Giant demon seal. Seal. Following Hua Wen's cold shout, his palms slapped the ground in front of him. Buzz. An astonishing spatial rhythm howled out as the 1,000-meter-wide black rune net beneath the nirvanic demon spirit rapidly tightened. Thousands of complicated talisman runes quickly swam towards the demon spirit of destruction's huge body. They were like ancient and mysterious dark chains shuttling around its body. The purple light emitted by the demon spirit of destruction quickly dimmed. Chu Hen's expression changed. He suddenly realized that the black, square-shaped spirit formation was not only there to prevent him from escaping, and to seal the power of the Nirvana demon spirit. Whoosh, without any time or opportunity to react, countless black runes wrapped around the Nirvana demon spirit's shoulders. Woo! At the same time, a sharp demonic howl came from above. An illusory red demonic figure spread its arms and extended its sharp claws, grabbing the Nirvana demon spirit's shoulder from behind. The hook-like claws pierced deep into the demon spirit's body. Buzz! In an instant, the monstrous aura emitted by the Nirvana demon spirit was suppressed to the bottom. He was like a beast trapped in a cage, unable to move. Good move! Chu Hen shouted coldly, and the space between his brows was filled with seriousness. Ha! Hua Wen smirked. You're a 7-star demon pupil, sacred physique, after all. I'm willing to give you the respect you deserve. Shock. The desolate sacred clan's method caused Chu Hen and Mo Qingli outside the spirit formation to tremble in fear. Even though Hua Wen had been showing disdain towards Chu Hen from the very beginning, Hua Wen's eyes were filled with disdain. But in reality, he had never underestimated Chu Hen's strength. Universe sealing technique. The two great Saint King realm powerhouses didn't even pay attention to Mo Qingli and joined forces to lay down this powerful barrier. On the surface, it seemed to be to prevent Chu Hen from escaping, but in reality, it was to coordinate with Hua Wen to instantly release the second layer of the universe seal. The Nirvana demon spirit that Chu Hen summoned with the power of the 7-star demon pupils did not even have the chance to unleash its power before it was directly imprisoned. The ultimate killing move that he used to defeat Duansong was instantly rendered useless. Why were the 10 strongest sacred clans known as the strongest? It was not only because of their innate super bloodline, but also because of their flawless layout. In order to ensure that he could kill Chu Hen, Hua Wen could be said to have calculated his opponent's every move. Hee, your current expression is exactly what I want to see. After losing the power of the demon pupils, how can you block my desolate force? In Hua Wen's eyes, Chu Hen was already a corpse. There was no chance of turning the situation around at all. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and the purple light around his body swayed. Don't be happy too early. Is that so? Hua Wen's lips curled up, and he extended his palm towards Mo Qingli. Next, it's time for you to say your last words. But there won't be much time. Rapid airflow wreaked havoc in all directions. Hua Wen's momentum paused, and then he clenched his fist. Boom! Bang! In the next second, the space where Chu Hen stood immediately caved in, along with the collapsed forest ground. Countless terrifying spear radiance pierced through the ground, like incomparably sharp wooden stakes, and attacked Chu Hen. Limitless spear break. The endless destructive aura was like a violent storm. Dense killing intent tore through the space. It was the same move, but in Hua Wen's hands, it was not just a little stronger than Duansong's. The dense spear radiance exploded with a strangling power that could pierce through everything. Every spear radiance was like an extreme light, swaying rapidly in a spiral. Watching this scene, Mo Qingli's face turned pale, and she could only anxiously attack the light screen in front of her. In front of the primitive Holy Clan, there was nothing she could do. Boom! Bang! An earth-shattering sound like thunder clashing resounded. One after another, The piercingly cold and frightening death spear auras solidly attacked Chu Hen from all directions, creating a chaotic shock wave that could shake the heavens. Mo Qingli clenched her jade-like hand. The eyes of the other two people controlling the barrier also turned cold. At the place where the chaotic storm gathered, a purple cube space shield completely enveloped Chu Hen. Every surface of the cube flashed with the image of a demonic purple eye. It was bewitching, gorgeous, and dazzling. The cold spear radiance that was as dense as rain struck the light shield, causing chaotic halos to spread out. The surface of the shield shook violently, but it was still impregnable. Interesting. The Shield of Punishment has such a move? Huawen had a playful smile. But the moment his voice fell, Huawen dragged a series of afterimages in the air, and like an aurora, he flashed in front of Chu Hen. Bang! A deafening explosion sounded, and the purple light shield in front of Chu Hen instantly shattered. Thousands of broken ice crystal fragments danced wantonly. Chu Hen's pupils shrank. Huawen's cold smile was reflected in his bewitching and demonic eyes. You don't have a Nirvana demon spirit. Why struggle? Rumble. Wind and thunder roared, and the universe turned. Huawen's right arm was surrounded by a thick and vigorous red cyclone. Beams of light that resembled flowing lava rapidly converged at the center of his palm and astonishingly condensed into a red energy body. It was as if it contained a berserk destructive power that was like the convergence of stars. Huawen raised the energy body in his palm and directly smashed it towards the center of Chu Hen's chest. Shatter, I said. Primordial sky yuan break. The red energy body was like a heavenly star in the palm that was revolving at high speed. The endless aura of death and destruction completely enveloped Chu Hen. The space between the two was torn. Chu Hen. Seeing this scene, Mo Qingli turned pale with fright. Bang! In an instant, a destructive explosion that could instantly disintegrate the mountains and rivers swept out in all directions. Boom! The ground suddenly caved in, and the infinitely expanding ground was torn apart inch by inch, and all the plants and vegetation were turned into powder. Layers of red shock waves continuously struck the light screen of the enchantment, and narrow and long sharp cracks spread all over the enchantment. Red pillars of light that could lift the sky shot up. Primordial power was like a raging storm, filling the entire enchantment space. Mo Qing's eyes revealed a lot of sadness. The other two people from the primordial holy clan had already revealed a complacent cold smile. But at this moment, an indifferent and cold voice sounded out. Didn't I tell you not to be happy too early? Lord Huawen. In an instant, the smiles of the two people from the primordial holy clan froze on their faces. Chapter 1508. Didn't I tell you not to celebrate too early? Lord Huawen. The cold and indifferent voice carried a hint of playfulness. In an instant, Mo Qingli's eyes could not help but light up. Meanwhile, the smiles of the other two great saint kings from the primitive holy tribe immediately froze. What's going on? He's not dead? Hua! A chaotic cyclone swept out in all directions. Then, an extremely unbelievable scene appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Buzz, buzz. The distorted space was filled with slender cracks. Chu Hen, who should have been smashed into smithereens, was still standing in the same place without moving. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, but his demonic eyes still emitted a cold and domineering aura. At this moment, in front of Chu Hen's body, there was a black shadow. The shadow's silhouette was exactly the same as Chu Hen's. Like a fiend god, it stood in front of Chu Hen. This is... Everyone in the room revealed a look of astonishment. It was especially so for Huawen. His entire body surged with powerful desolation energy. His arm, which contained the power to destroy everything, struck the black silhouette, but he was unable to shatter it. How is this possible? Huawen frowned. His eyes were still filled with surprise. With his explosive power just now, Even the sealed Nirvana demon spirit behind Chu Hen would definitely not be able to withstand it. However, the strange and mysterious black shadow in front of him was actually able to withstand his destructive attack. Could it be that the black shadow was even stronger than the seven-star demon eyes? Who exactly are you? Huawen said with a cold gaze. The corner of Chu Hen's mouth twitched. His throat moved slightly. The person who will send you to see Hades. The moment he finished speaking, an extremely dangerous wave of energy suddenly exploded from the black shadow between the two. Huawen was shocked. He subconsciously retracted his palm and wanted to retreat. However, to his disbelief, his arm was firmly stuck to the black shadow's body by an invisible force. How is this possible? Before Huawen could forcefully break free, something even more shocking happened. Kacha, the space in front of the black shadow, actually exploded. Amidst the distorted space, a dazzling, dark, devouring hole suddenly appeared between the two. What? Huawen's expression changed drastically. Panic that had never appeared before immediately covered his entire face. Buzz, the rapidly expanding space, devouring hole was like a terrifying monster that could devour everything. The intersecting lights inside were like countless, extremely sharp shadow blades. In an instant, Huawen's entire arm was swept into it. This warm blood sprayed into the air, while Huawen's pupils constricted to the size of a needle tip. Under his extremely astonished gaze, his entire right arm was instantly minced into pieces. Lord Huawen, the other two from the Chaos Holy Tribe, turned pale with fright. To a heaven-rank great saint king, having one's limbs destroyed wasn't something irreversible. However, Huawen, whose arm had been crushed, was still unable to break free from the terrifying, devouring hole. The powerful suction force was like an invisible hand, firmly dragging Huawen's body, as if it was dragging him into the bloody mouth of a giant abyssal beast. Ah! A shrill and furious roar resounded from Huawen's throat. The constantly expanding dark, devouring hole was like a rapidly revolving storm whirlpool. After mincing Huawen's arm, it continued to bite his shoulder and half of his body. He, separated by the black shadow, Chu Hen laughed coldly, like a devil. It's over, Lord Huawen. Even without the demon eye, I will still kill you. Fury that he had never felt before. Even Huawen, who had a high status in the Chaos Holy Tribe, felt that he was facing extraordinary humiliation. You want to kill me? His eyes were blood red, and the veins all over his body bulged. You will also have to pay a painful price. As soon as he finished speaking, Huawen raised his other arm high up, and a monstrous and violent force gathered in the center of his palm. Buzz! In an instant, a ball of red energy that was several times more vigorous than before condensed into form. Destructive energy fluctuations covered the heavens and the earth, causing the surroundings to tremble. Stop! Let him go! At the same time, the other two Great Saint King Realm powerhouses rushed forward at their fastest speed. At this moment, Huawen was already furious to the extreme. The violent energy condensed in the center of his palm was pushed out, and it blasted towards Chu Hen behind the black shadow. Die! Huawen roared with incomparable savagery. In the next moment, the red sphere, which had gathered an enormous amount of desolate age power, expanded rapidly, like a fireball star that was about to burst open. At the same time, Chu Hen raised his eyes, and a ball of blue light erupted from the center of his right palm. Chaos Heavenly Yuan. Immeasurable creation. Bang! In the next instant, an extremely violent red ball and a dazzling blue light collided. The extremely spectacular and terrifying power even caused the two celestial bodies to collide. Along with the earth forest that was instantly overturned and ruptured, two energy storms that swept through the 9 heavens in all directions immediately burst open and exploded. Bang! Boom! The heavens fell, the earth cracked, and the universe lost its color. Two destructive storms that tore at each other wreaked havoc. The enormous black, square-shaped light screen that enveloped the battlefield was completely shattered. The remaining might swept out like a tsunami, shattering the seal and sweeping through a large patch of forest and mountain streams. Lord Huan, the other two desolate St. Clan experts, turned pale with fright. The violent shockwave was like a hurricane and a tsunami, engulfing the two of them. Boom! At the same time, the gigantic demonic seal that imprisoned the Nirvana demon spirit collapsed inch by inch. The gigantic demonic silhouette that suppressed the demon spirit directly exploded. Even the tens of thousands of runes and secret scrolls that wrapped around its body shattered into countless light shadows. A peerless demonic aura of destruction spread across the heavenly river, covering the surroundings. Not good. The faces of the other two great sage kings from the wilderness tribe paled. Rumble. Before they could finish speaking, the chaotic energy storm above their heads was directly pierced through. Then a black shadow pressed down, and two gigantic purple demonic hands, one on the left and one on the right, pressed down on the two of them. A mountain-like pressure came crashing down. Sizzle. As they moved, the violent, python-like lightning power quickly gathered in the center of the gigantic hands. In the next instant, a peerlessly sharp lightning spike condensed in the palms of the two fiend god palms. It was like lightning striking the air. It was breathtaking. The other two's faces were instantly filled with deep fear. Swoosh! The aurora illuminated the helpless faces of the two. Two giant lightning spikes pierced through the sky and directly struck down. Coup! Without the slightest ability to resist, the lightning beam that originated from the seven-star demon eyes and the Nirvana demon spirit palm forcibly pierced through their bodies. They were like people who were destined to die, pinned by the Grim Reaper's fingernails. Helplessness, fear, deep disbelief surged in their hearts. How could this be? The two of them looked at each other and saw the trace of despair in each other's eyes. Two mortal great saint kings and a heavenly great saint king were actually tortured to such a state by a mortal great saint king, Chu Hen. From the beginning to the end, they were not careless. The universe sealing technique. It completely suppressed the power of the seven-star demon eyes. It was supposed to be a death match, but they still lost. They had calculated every step of Chu Hen. They had indeed suppressed the power of the demon eyes. However, man proposes, God disposes. They never expected that Chu Hen actually had a second bloodline limit. It was a powerful trump card that he did not even show that day in the War God Palace. One wrong move, and the whole game was lost. There was only despair in the hearts of the two. Bang! Bang! Along with the overlapping heavy explosion, the lightning that penetrated their bodies shone brightly, and then the two of them directly exploded into two clouds of blood mist. Flesh and blood flew, and bones and organs were shattered. In front of a Nirvana demon spirit, a mortal great Saint King expert was actually so vulnerable. Chapter 1509. Chanxian, the latest chapter of Divine King Wuji. Boom! Bang! Nirvana demon spirit, silent destruction. A destructive storm tore through the sky and destroyed hundreds of miles of mountains and forests. The battle between Chu Hen and Hua was earth-shattering. Primitive Holy Clan. They sent out such a lineup to kill Chu Hen. It was supposed to be a dead end. Who would have thought that Chu Hen would turn the situation around at the last moment and counterattack? Chu Hen, Mo Qingli, who had been isolated from the battlefield, was extremely anxious. She hurriedly ran forward. At this moment, the battlefield in front of her had already been reduced to ruins. The originally lush forest was completely destroyed, and not a single tree was left. Among the rubble, there was no longer any trace of Hua Wen's aura. That extremely violent and terrifying explosive force just now had directly destroyed the other party, leaving not even a trace of his remains. At this moment, Chu Hen was also riddled with injuries. His aura was weak as he stood among the rubble. His body was covered in blood, and his face was especially pale. "How are you?" Mo Qingli asked anxiously. Before the other party finished speaking, Chu Hen's body was paralyzed, and he fell backwards powerlessly. Mo Qingli hurriedly took Chu Hen into her arms and held his shoulder, letting his head rest on her arm. So tired. Chu Hen's voice was incomparably weak. Mo Qingli was angry and amused at the same time, but her eyes were slightly red. It's all because of you causing trouble everywhere. Now you know that you're tired. Chu Hen's lips curled into a smile. I'm very tired. Don't go away, I'm just going to sleep for a while. The low and weak voice was like a mosquito's buzz. An inexplicable sense of exhaustion surged, and Chu Hen's consciousness sank into unconsciousness. The intense battle just now had already exhausted all of Chu Hen's energy. Especially the last attack that Hua, when had used up, the impact was so strong that it was enough to injure Chu Hen. Looking at the unconscious Chu Hen in her arms, Mo Qingli had an indescribably complicated feeling. She had personally witnessed the growth of this young man step by step, from that small 100 Kingdoms province, which was located at the border of the Eastern Domain, to today's Midland. From being unknown in the past to being famous all over the world today, she had witnessed every step that Chu Hen had taken on the path of martial arts. You're really amazing, Mo Qingli said softly. At the same time, a crystalline teardrop quietly slid down and gently dripped between Chu Hen's eyebrows. Mo Qingli's expression was extremely complicated. In her eyes, there was a great struggle. She looked at Chu Hen's face, which was very close to hers. She pinched her fingers together, and her nails dug deep into her palms. Hesitation, a kind of heart-wrenching struggle. Why did you fall asleep? Why now? Mo Qingli's heart felt like it was being sucked into a whirlpool. The conversation he had with his father, Huang Tsang, in the howling abyss last night appeared in his mind. With Chisho's cultivation base, even if he left a gap in the seal for you, you wouldn't be able to escape unscathed, right? Father, you're really prophetic. After breaking the seal, I met someone. Who? A person who has the bloodline of the demon pupil's sacred body. With his help, not only did my cultivation base return to its peak, but I was also able to break through to the Great Saint King stage. I see. Huang Tsang's eyes turned cold when he heard Mo Qingli's words. Father, have you thought of a way out? What can I do? Mo Qingli asked solemnly. The most important thing now was to save him from the howling abyss. Yes, Huang Tsang replied. What is it? Mo Qingli's eyes lit up. However, what Huang Tsang said next made Mo Qingli at a complete loss. Ali, I want you to bring back one of that person's demon pupil, Clang. It was like a bolt of lightning that pierced through his body. Mo Qingli's face was full of disbelief. Father, even if I leave this place, I must take back the position of the clan leader. However, I'm no match for Ming Mie in my current state. Ming Mie's forte is illusory techniques, and the demon pupil is the bane of illusory techniques. If you bring back one of that person's demon pupil for me, I'll be able to defeat Ming Mie and regain control of the clan. Mo Qingli's mind was in a mess when she heard Huang Tsang's words. Father, I can't do that. He can help you regain the position of the clan leader. He has the ability to do so. I, Huang Tsang, am the king of the Saint Sparrow clan. How can I allow a human to interfere in the clan's internal strife? Moreover, if I don't kill Ming Mie with my own hands, how can the rest of the clan submit to me? Huang Tsang said coldly. Father, Mo Qingli wanted to persuade him again. However, Huang Tsang interrupted her. Ali, you know how long I've been trapped here. I've been waiting for an opportunity, and it's finally here. As long as you bring back one of the demon pupils for me, I'll get back everything we've lost. Mo Qingli did not know what else to say. Ever since she was young, she could disobey anyone, but Huang Tsang was the only person she could not disobey. Ali, I'll wait for you here. Why did it have to be now? Mo Qingli felt like she was struggling in a quagmire as she stared at Chu Hen, who was in a deep coma and breathing weakly. Then, she closed her eyes and slowly opened them again. She lowered her head to look at Chu Hen in her arms and said guiltily, I'm sorry. I can't let my father stay in that place forever. As she spoke, Mo Qingli raised her trembling finger and slowly extended it towards Chu Hen's left cheek. In the depths of the lush green mountain range, clouds and mist lingered. Numerous towering peaks pierced through the clouds like heavenly pillars. At the top of a precipitous cliff, a young figure of peerless beauty was quietly looking at the beautiful scenery of the river in the distance. Screech! Suddenly, an eagle swooped down from the distant horizon. This was a majestic eagle. All of its feathers were holy and noble gold, without the slightest bit of other colors. Its sharp eyes exuded the domineering aura of a king. The golden eagle circled above the young woman and let out a low cry. Then, a look of surprise appeared on the woman's beautiful face. "Where is he?" Screech! The golden eagle let out a long cry and turned around, turning into a beam of light that pierced through the sky. Rocks cracked, and the forest was destroyed. The earth seemed to have been turned upside down. The mountains and rivers within a few hundred miles were all destroyed, and the rivers and waterfalls flowed in reverse. However, at the center of the ruined battlefield, a young figure covered in wounds was lying there. He lay there alone. He looked especially lonely. Dried blood dyed his clothes red. At the corner of his closed left eye, a faint red liquid flowed out. Screech! The golden eagle let out a long cry in the sky. The beautiful woman who stood on the edge of the cliff also followed. When she saw the figure lying in the ruins, her slender eyebrows could not help but frown. Her beautiful peach blossom eyes faintly revealed some complicated feelings. The stars moved and the bright moon hung in the sky. The water under the bridge gurgled endlessly. As night fell, fireflies chased and played with each other by the stream. Baichinyu sat in the pavilion by the stream, leaning against the railing of the bench. In front of the pavilion, there was a rotating water wheel. With every rotation of the water wheel, a part of the stream water would be scooped out. Behind the pavilion was a bamboo house. The bamboo house was built very exquisitely. It was suspended in the air, and there was a clear spring flowing under it. If it was on a hot summer day, lying in the cool bamboo house and listening to the sound of flowing spring water, there would be an indescribable comfort. Baichinyu could not remember when was the last time she came to this place. Today, apart from her, there was another guest in this small bamboo house. The gentle night light sprinkled on Baichinyu's beautiful face like snow and frost. There was a kind of dreamy beauty. "I miss you," Baichinyu murmured to herself softly, her clear eyes like autumn water surging with many feelings of longing. "Is it wrong for me to do this? Father." It seemed to be a sleepless night. Baichinyu lightly leaned against the pillar next to her. Her beautiful eyes rotated and looked at the bamboo house behind her. Was the person in the house sleeping soundly? The sun and moon rotated. Dawn broke. The gentle and beautiful sunlight spilled into the pavilion, and Baichinyu's fair and flawless face was almost translucent. She was excessively beautiful in her sleep, as if she was dreaming of the person she missed, and the corners of her mouth were slightly raised in a happy smile. Bang! At this moment, the sound of something breaking in the bamboo house behind her directly woke Baichinyu up from her dream. She was stunned for a moment, then immediately got up and jogged towards the bamboo house. Creak! The door of the bamboo house opened, and Baichinyu immediately walked in. Next to the window, a young figure with sharp features seemed to be standing there in a daze. "You're awake," Baichinyu called softly. The other person slowly turned around, a trace of coldness revealed in his voice. "Can you explain it to me?" An invisible rhythm of space swept out, only to see a pair of strange eyes appear on the pale but handsome face of the other person. One of them was the purple demon eye that he was familiar with, but the other was a golden eye that glowed with the majesty of an emperor. The different colored eyes coldly stared at Baichinyu, who stood at the door. Holy and demonic, there was an indescribable strangeness. Here's the fourth update. It's not easy to write. I hope everyone can support the original Chasing Waves. Also, interested friends can add God King Wu Ji's QQ chat. 149825000. Good night, everyone. Chapter 1510. Maple Wings Sky Valley. Within the sacred wing, Heavenly Flame, Sparrow Clan. The interior of the majestic palace was a dazzling sight. The floor tiles made of precious black jade gave off an indescribable feeling when one stepped on them. At this moment, a series of steady footsteps came from outside the palace. A handsome young man clad in silver, holy armor stepped into the hall. Subordinate Chi Shou greets clan ruler. The man stepped into the center of the palace and bowed respectfully to the people in the palace. A middle-aged man dressed in emperor's robes sat at the front of the palace. This person had long and narrow eyes. His eyebrows and hair were crimson. This person was none other than the current clan ruler of the Sacred Wing Heavenly Flame Sparrow Clan, Ming Mia. On the two sides of the palace stood a group of high-ranking members of the Heavenly Flame Sparrow Clan. Everyone narrowed their eyes when they saw Chi Shou walk in. Their faces faintly held a hint of mockery. Commander Chi Shou, dispense with the formalities, Ming Mia said indifferently. Thank you, clan ruler. Chi Shou raised his head slightly and asked, what instructions does clan ruler have for summoning this subordinate? Ming Mia did not answer. Instead, he asked, Commander Chi Shou, how has this emperor treated you? Chi Shou's eyes narrowed slightly. Clan ruler, you treat me very well. Ming Mia laughed. Chi Shou, this emperor has always thought highly of you. Although you're Huang San's personal guard, I still think highly of you. But you, Ming Mia paused. His eyes froze. Why did you betray me? Betray? Hearing these two words, all the high-ranking members in the palace revealed cold expressions. Each of them exuded a cold and solemn aura. Chi Shou, on the other hand, stood there calmly. He did not seem to be panicking at all. Clan ruler, why do you say this? This subordinate does not understand. Chi Shou, you're still acting? A tall and thin elder stepped forward and pointed at Chi Shou. A few days ago, did you go to the Wailing Abyss behind our backs? Yes. Chi Shou replied calmly. Don't you know that the Wailing Abyss is our clan's forbidden land? Anyone who trespasses without clan ruler's instructions is guilty. I know. So, what are you doing there? I want to see His Majesty Huang Tsang and get the whereabouts of the great devil slaughter record from him so that I can give it to His Majesty. Chi Shou's expression was still calm. The corners of everyone's eyes narrowed when they heard this. Ming Mia leaned forward slightly with a playful expression. In that case, I've wronged you? This subordinate dares not. Then, what about the great demon slaughter record? I can't find it. What a load of nonsense. The skinny old man waved his hand and pointed at Chi Shou and scolded. You bastard, stop acting here. Do you really think we're 3 years old? Believe it or not, it's up to you. Chi Shou has nothing to say. Haha. Chi Shou, oh Chi Shou, do you really think you're somebody? The old man sneered. Then he turned around and said to Yin Ya, Clan Emperor, this Chi Shou harbors disloyalty. Leaving him alive will definitely be a calamity. For the stability of the clan, this subordinate requests Clan Emperor to kill him as soon as possible to serve as a warning to others. What Elder Hong Shan said is very true. That's right. I support Elder Hong Shan's actions. Chi Shou has the ambition of a wolf. He deserves death. The voices in the hall were in unison. They all agreed with the skinny old man's actions. Ming Mia wasn't in a hurry. He looked calmly at Chi Shou. Do you have anything else to say? Chi Shou straightened his back and faced Ming Mia's incomparably sharp gaze without the slightest hint of fear. Chi Shou has nothing to say. Very well. Ming Mia's eyes flashed with a cold light. Men, tie Chi Shou to the heaven worship altar and execute the fire poison punishment. Yes. A few guards immediately walked in from outside the door. Chi Shou's expression faintly changed when he heard the words punishment by poisonous flames. The fire poison punishment was one of the highest punishments of the Sacred Wing Heavenly Flame Sparrow Clan. This punishment wouldn't instantly kill the victim. The fire poison would slowly eat away at the victim's body. At that time, it would be like being bitten by 10,000 ants. The process was extremely painful, and it would be worse than death. Hong Shan and the others couldn't help but reveal sinister smiles when they saw Chi Shou being held down. Suddenly, at this moment, an earth-shattering aura surged in from outside the hall like a storm. Clang! Wind and thunder rumbled outside the hall. Majestic dark clouds immediately covered the sky, and the day outside the hall instantly turned into night. What was going on? Everyone was shocked. Then, a vast and terrifying aura surged into the hall. Bang! 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 The guards holding Chi were thrown to the ground. Let's see who dares to kill him today. The domineering aura of an emperor shook the entire hall. The expressions of Hong Shan and the others immediately changed when they heard this voice. Ming Mie's eyes turned cold as he shouted coldly, "Phoenix! Song!" Whoosh! The powerful aura that shook the entire hall pressed down on everyone like a mountain. Then, two figures stepped into the hall one after the other. The person in the lead was tall and sturdy. His eyebrows reached his temples, and although there were a few white hairs on his temples, he didn't look old at all. Subordinate Chi kneels to welcome His Majesty and Her Highness. Chi knelt on one knee with a respectful expression. This was respect and awe from the bottom of his heart. Chi, how dare you? His Majesty is here, Hong Shan yelled. Humph. Chi stood up and glanced sideways at Hong Shan. His brows were filled with arrogance. In the eyes of Chi, there will always only be one clan leader. As for all of you, you are merely rebels who have offended your superiors. You. Hong Shan was speechless and didn't know how to retort. At the same time, two shapeless and formidable imposing auras converged together, and they were like waves that overlapped each other, causing the space within the hall to tremble. Ming Mie was still sitting sideways on his throne as he stared coldly at Huang Tsang and Chi. You father and daughter are very confident. Ming Mie knew Huang Tsang's condition the best. After the other party escaped the wailing abyss, he didn't run away immediately and came here instead. It was a little surprising. You can't let go of your throne? Ming Mie smiled frivolously. Humph. Huang Tsang sneered and pointed at Ming Mie. You are no different from a clown sitting on this throne. Today, I will take back everything here. You. Ming Mie's face was full of disdain. Even if I'm not in my best condition right now, it's more than enough to kill you, Ming Mie. Very well. Since you father and daughter have come to me today, this Majesty will deal with the both of you. As soon as he finished speaking, dark annihilation leaped up and gave rise to a majestic aura that was like a tempestuous wave that swept towards the hall below. You've come at the right time. Huang Tsang's eyes were sharp. He also moved with the wind, and a powerful scarlet flame erupted from his body. Bang! The two of them exchanged a palm strike. A ferocious shock wave swept through the hall, the surging waves causing the entire hall to shake violently. Following that, beams of light shot out from both of their bodies, giving off an imposing aura. Bang! Boom! The two of them turned into a beam of light and shot up, piercing through the roof of the hall and leaving two holes. Mo Qingli, Chi, Hong Shan, and the others immediately left the hall and went outside. At this moment, the entire Saint-Winged Heavenly Flame Sparrow clan was in chaos. What's going on? What happened? The Huang Tsang clan's majesty escaped from the wailing abyss. What? Boom! The sky darkened and the clouds surged. The storm of dark clouds swept across the sky like the end of the world. It was frightening. Ming Mie and Huang Tsang stood on the east and west sides of the hall. Their powerful auras were like two fierce tigers fighting each other. Huang Tsang, you've already lost to me once. This time, you're just repeating the same mistake. Ming Mie said coldly. Humph, you only caught me off guard last time. This time, I'll get back at you with interest. Wishful thinking. Ming Mie's eyes emitted a chilly light. Then, an enormous shadow of a sacred sparrow appeared behind him. Screech! The sacred sparrow's shrill cry shook the heavens. It spread its wings and pounced toward Huang Tsang, dragging a towering gray flame behind it. How did you lose in the past? You'll do the same today. Illusory, sparrow divine sky. The moment he finished speaking, an overwhelming aura spread out from Ming Mie's body. In an instant, under the shocked gazes of countless people below, a dreamy distortion appeared in the sky above the 9 heavens. Wherever the projection of the holy sparrow, which was covered in cold gray flames, went, heaven and earth rapidly sank into thick darkness. Night fell, and it was like the evil hand of a nightmare, which quickly engulfed the space around Huang Tsang. The endless darkness seemed to drag Huang Tsang into the abyss where he would never be able to rise again. Everyone watched the scene unfold. Their faces were filled with shock and fear. No one can break the Emperor Ming Mie's illusion. That's right. Didn't His Majesty Huang Tsang lose because of this? One was the new emperor, and the other was the old master. To the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow clan, this was a situation that they didn't wish to see. But a mountain cannot hold two tigers. The winner was king, and the loser was bandit. Although many people felt pity for their former master, Huang Tsang, there was nothing they could do. Whoosh! However, just as the endless darkness sealed the sky, a piercingly cold and peerless light suddenly tore through the sky and pierced through the illusion. Great Demon Slayer sword! An earth-shattering explosion rang out, causing the heavens to tremble and the 9 heavens to tremble. Along with the shattered night sky, a massive crimson sword had pierced through the sacred sparrow's silhouette like a divine rainbow. This is? Everyone was startled. The illusion has been broken? Boom! A ring of boundless crimson light rippled forth from the center of the massive projection of the holy vermilion bird. Countless streaks of light shredded the dark space, and the projection of the holy vermilion bird also shattered into countless light and shadow cyclones. Amidst the wanton, whistling, chaotic vortex, a miserable figure that was covered in fresh blood fell from the sky. It's the emperor of the Ming Mie clan. Heavens, how is this possible? Boom! Under countless, incredulous gazes, Qi Mie crashed into the plaza in front of the palace. At the same time, all the illusory silhouettes in the sky were shattered. Countless beams of colorful light poured down, and Huang Tsang stood in the air, looking down at the people below like a king who had returned. Ming Mie, is this the illusion that you're so proud of? It can't even withstand a single blow. Rustle. A powerful pressure enveloped the entire place. In an instant, the faces of Hong Shan and the other higher echelons of the Ming Mie clan turned ashen. They were terrified out of their wits. Yin Mie covered his bleeding chest with one hand as he staggered to his feet. His face was filled with shock. He couldn't believe it. How is this possible? Looking at Huang Tsang, who stood proudly in the sky, Ming Mie's pupils shrank in the next instant. The shock in his heart had reached an unimaginable level. Huang Tsang's left eye was flickering with a demonic purple light. Not only was Ming Mie shocked, but everyone else was also shocked. Qishou's eyes widened with shock. This is difficult. Could this be the legendary demon eye, one of the 10 strongest bloodlines? Rumble. The entire place was in chaos. Demon eye. It can't be wrong. It's definitely the demon eye. Only the demon eye can see through all illusions. Shock. Surprise. Everyone was shocked and doubtful. Ming Mie's eyes were filled with shock and unease. In this world, only demon eye could see through all illusions. At this moment, in front of Huang Tsang, no matter how great his illusions were and how unpredictable they were all useless. This was an innate suppression of power. There was no other way. We welcome the return of your majesty. With Qishou as the leader, Huang Tsang's old subordinates knelt on the ground and shouted in unison. Then, the other clansmen also knelt on the ground. Welcome the return of your majesty. Your majesty's divine might is unparalleled. Hong Shan and the others were all scared out of their wits. They knelt on the ground and trembled. Ming Mie's face was filled with despair. He also knelt on the ground powerlessly. I've lost. Sinner Ming Mie, please spare my life, your majesty. Ha ha ha. Looking at all the clansmen who had surrendered in front of him, Huang Tsang laughed proudly. Welcome, your majesty. Your majesty's divine might is unparalleled. The orderly and loud voices came one after another. This former ruler had once again regained control of the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow clan. Looking at the high-spirited and domineering Huang Tsang, Mo Qingli's heart was filled with mixed feelings. She wasn't as happy as she imagined. His red eyes were filled with an indescribable gloominess and loneliness. The stream was murmuring, and the water wheel was turning. There was a bamboo house by the side of a beautiful stream. "Can you explain it to me?" In the room, the pale and frail young figure slowly turned around, his voice revealing traces of coldness. "Zeng." A strange spatial rhythm was startled. On Chu Han's handsome face that did not have the slightest bit of blood color, a pair of strange eyes astonishingly appeared. One of them was the purple demon eye that he was familiar with. As for the other, it was a golden eye that glowed with the majesty of an emperor. The different colored eyes stared coldly at Bai Qinyu, who was standing at the door. Sacred and demonic coexisted, and there was an indescribable strangeness. Bai Qinyu's red lips were slightly pursed, and her pair of bright peach blossom eyes were filled with a trace of complexity. "Those are the eyes of the White Emperor,"